the lie of the present moment you think you're here, right now, listening. But tell me, where is now, really? You say this is the present, but the present doesn't exist. Neuroscientists have confirmed that your brain delays sensory input by a fraction of a second to unify experience. The sound you hear, the sights you process, they've already happened. You are always living slightly in the past. Every word I say has already occurred by the time you register it. You're chasing the world with a lag you can never close, but it gets worse. That delay? It's not uniform. Light travels faster than sound. Visual stimuli are processed differently than tactile sensations. Your brain cheats merging disparate timelines into a smooth lie so you don't lose your mind. What you think is the present is actually an edited hallucination stitched together by your cortex to avoid cognitive collapse, and it is hallucination. David Eagleman, a renowned neuroscientist, demonstrated this with experiments in time perception. In one study, participants pressed a button that triggered a delayed flash of light. Over time, the brain recalibrated, eliminating the delay altogether. People began perceiving the flash as simultaneous with the press, even when it wasn't. Your mind literally rewires its perception of time to maintain the illusion of order. This illusion isn't just neurological, it's philosophical. Augustine of Hippo, over 1,600 years ago, asked, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know what it is. If I wish to explain it to him who asks, I do not know. The future doesn't exist. The past is gone, and the present cannot be captured. Time is not a river, it's a knife with no blade that's perpetually cutting through nothing." But what happens when we interrogate this deeper? Consider the Libet experiment, conducted in 1983. Participants were asked to flex their wrists at random moments, noting the precise time they decided to act. Electrodes tracked their brain activity. The result was devastating to free will. The brain had already begun the action before the conscious decision was made. You decide after the fact. You are the narrator of a story already being written. By biochemical impulses, you are not making choices in the moment. You are watching the shadow of choice catch up to a decision that's already occurred. You don't live in the present. You don't act in the present. You don't even exist in the present. Let's fold this further. Modern physics strips time of its privileged status. Einstein's theory of relativity broke the universe into shards of simultaneity. There is no single now shared across the cosmos. A supernova exploding in a distant galaxy could already have obliterated your future, but from your perspective, it's yet to happen. Time is a dimension, not a flow. Your experience of it linear, dependable, is a local illusion. A pocket lie wrapped around your tiny coordinates in space-time. Block universe theory goes even further. Past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Everything that will ever happen has already happened. You aren't moving through time. You are embedded in it, like a fly frozen in amber, mistaking its paralysis for motion. The choices you think you'll make tomorrow, already fossilized in the cosmic blueprint. Already done. So where exactly do you think you are? You say now, but that word means nothing. You're a bundle of delayed perceptions reacting to a world that's already moved on, and you'll never catch up. Your entire conscious life is posthumous. It unfolds after the fact. Always too late. And then there's déjà vu, that eerie sensation of reliving a moment. It happens when the brain misfires processing a current experience through memory pathways instead of immediate sensory ones. You feel as if it's already happened because, in a very real way, your brain has decided that it did, which means even the feeling of now being new is just a repetition, a glitch, a rewind of something you never lived in the first place. Still think you're present? Let's return to sleep, the thing you came here for. During REM, your sense of time collapses entirely. Hours can stretch or compress into a single second. You wake up convinced a dream took minutes only to find the clock unchanged. The temporality of dreams is a mirror of your waking life. Fluid, non-linear, reassembled out of fragments. And yet, you trust your waking life more than your dreams. Why? If your perception of time can so easily bend while unconscious, how can you be sure it's reliable while conscious? Now think about the Event Horizon Telescope. In 2019, it captured the shadow of a black hole. But because of light travel, time, what we saw wasn't a present image, it was a glimpse 55 million years into the past. You cannot even look at the universe without looking at ghosts. The stars you wish upon are already dead. And what about memory? You believe it roots you in time. But every time you remember something, your brain reconstructs it from pieces. Memories degrade, distort, and fuse. They are more storytelling than record-keeping. The act of recalling a moment overwrites it. You are constantly editing your past to make sense of the present that doesn't exist. So, if you can't trust memory, if you can't trust perception, if you can't locate the present, who exactly is living your life? And when? You think? The clock ticks forward. That each second is a step toward something real. But every tick is a metronome of your own fiction. You never arrive. You're always arriving. A train that never reaches a station in a country that doesn't exist. Sleep is the desire to escape this confusion. But the irony is brutal. In trying. To sleep, you admit defeat. You surrender your already late consciousness to even deeper delays. And you hope somehow to wake up into a clearer now. But what if you can't? What if you never did? What if you've never actually lived a single second of your own life? The illusion of the self. Let's remove your name. Now your memories. Now, the stories you tell yourself when you're alone and scared. What's left? You call yourself you. But that word has no anchor. Let's begin with the simplest. Lie, continuity. You feel like the same person who woke up yesterday. But you aren't. Not biologically, not psychologically, not neurologically. Most of your body's cells have already been replaced. Your skin regenerates every few weeks. Your liver every few months. Even neurons, once believed to be static, show patterns of plasticity and change. The you of last year is dead. And this new you is a squatter in its place. But you feel the same, don't you? That's just another illusion. A cognitive artifact. The self is not a constant. It is a recursive feedback loop maintained by language, memory, and environment. The brain generates the sensation of unity to make decision-making efficient. Without the illusion of selfhood, your behavior would fragment. You would collapse under every contradiction you carry. The psychologist Bruce Hood puts it simply: the self is an illusion. It doesn't exist in the way we think it does. And yet everything you fear, loneliness, death, insignificance, is rooted in protecting this illusion. But if you are not one person, if you are a process rather than a presence, what is it exactly that goes to sleep at night? Split brain experiments destroy the illusion entirely. In the 1960s, neuroscientists studied patients whose corpus callosum, the bridge between the brain's hemispheres, was surgically severed to treat epilepsy. The result? Two independent spheres of consciousness. One hemisphere could read words, the other could not. One could draw, the other could speak. When different images were shown to each half, the subject reported only what the left brain saw, but the right brain's hand would point to what it saw. Two centers of awareness in one skull. Each hemisphere believed it was the only self. Which one was you? Which one did you wake up as today? And what if I told you they're both gone now? Daniel Dennett calls it the multiple drafts model. Your mind doesn't store a single self or even a single stream of consciousness. Instead, there are countless editorial processes happening in parallel, competing narratives, drafts that never get published. The self you experience is just the latest edit your brain promoted to consciousness. You are a story being rewritten in real time by an unreliable narrator, with pages missing and chapters forged out. Now think about how fragile that story is. Trauma can erase years of identity. A car crash, a coma, a stroke, and you emerge as someone else entirely. Different temperament, values, even language preferences. This isn't just rare, it's expected. The self is a neurological pattern, not a metaphysical core. Interrupt the pattern, and the person vanishes. And yet, you fear death because you believe. You will experience it, but the you that dies isn't the you that's alive now. The one who dies is the next draft one you'll never meet. Your name? You didn't choose it. Your language? Installed in childhood. Your memories? Filtered, distorted, invented. Your beliefs? Inherited from dead strangers. Even your voice, the one narrating this in your head right now, isn't yours. It's a mimic shaped by every conversation, every movie, every echo you've absorbed. You are not a person. You are a collage. Go deeper. The default mode network, DMN, is the brain network most active when you are not focused on external tasks. It is the seat of mind-wandering, self-referential thought, and autobiographical memory. In short, it's where you live when you're doing nothing. But when scientists used fMRI to study people under the influence of psychedelics like psilocybin, something remarkable happened. The DMN quieted, and people reported the complete dissolution of the self, a feeling of merging with everything, of ego death. Remove the DMN, and you vanished out. So how can something so central disappear so easily? And if it disappears that easily, was it ever really there? Let's turn to Buddhism not as religion, but as psychology. For thousands of years, practitioners have claimed the self is an illusion, anatta, the doctrine of no self. Meditation doesn't bring you closer to yourself. It reveals that there's no one there, that the voice inside your head is just a loop. That consciousness isn't owned by anyone. Western science is just now catching up. Think of consciousness not as a light bulb, but as a mirror shattered into a billion pieces. Each fragment reflects something. Each fragment believes it is the whole, but none are complete. You are not the light. You are the flicker in one shard dot, and yet the flicker panics when the light fades. This is why sleep scares you, not because it brings dreams, but because it brushes against death, the loss of self, the quieting of the voice, the dissolving of boundaries. You do not fear unconsciousness. You fear the proof that you were never needed. And it's not just death that reveals this. Every time you get lost in music, in flow, in dance, in laughter, where do you go? You're not present during ecstasy. You disappear. And you like it. You crave the annihilation. But you don't admit it, because the illusion must be maintained. Because without it, you'd have to ask, if the self is fake, who suffers? If I am, not one person, who is afraid? If I is just a linguistic shortcut, who is listening right now? And if no one is, why can you still hear me? Memory is a lie you tell yourself. You think memory is proof that you exist, that your life has continuity because you remember its unfolding. You think that your past lives behind your eyes, like a reel of film, cataloged inaccessible, sacred and untouchable. But memory is not an archive, that it is an act of storytelling, a performance, a reconstruction done blindly, with faulty tools on a stage built from guesswork. Let's begin with what science already knows. Every time you remember, Something you don't just retrieve it, you rewrite it. Your hippocampus doesn't function like a file cabinet. It functions like a mixing board. When you recall an event, you drag it out into the present, decode it through your current emotional state, your current biases, your current beliefs. And then you put it back, slightly altered. You don't remember events. You remember the last time you remembered them. So tell me, how many times do you think you've rewritten your childhood? Elizabeth Loftus, one of the most cited psychologists in the world, demonstrated the horrifying fragility of memory. In study after study, she implanted false memories into participants, memories of getting lost in a mall, of being attacked by an animal, even of committing a crime. People didn't just believe these things happened, they felt them. They added details, emotions, context. The lie became real. If you can remember something that never happened, how much of what did happen can you trust? Now fold this inward. Your memory is biased not just by time, but by trauma. The more emotional an event, the more distorted it becomes. Neuroscience shows that stress hormones like cortisol alter how memories are encoded and retrieved. This is why you can't fully trust your worst day. It's been edited by fear, sanded down by survival. The details you're sure of are probably wrong. The feelings you think are accurate are chemical exaggerations. Your memory is a story written by someone in crisis. And still, you call it identity. You believe you are your memories, but how can you be something so fluid? Amnesia patients show us how fragile this equation is. After brain injury, entire decades can vanish. Personalities shift, preferences mutate, skills evaporate, and yet they continue. The self continues. Even without memory, you don't need to remember being you to function like you. So what then is the purpose of memory? Not truth. Not continuity. But narrative. Memory exists to make your life feel like it has a plot, and plots need order, causality, simplicity. So your brain cheats. It edits, it smooths over contradictions, it eliminates irrelevant details. This is why two siblings can remember the same event in completely different ways, and both can be absolutely convinced they're right, because they are, in their respective internal worlds. Both stories have been edited to feel true, which means truth is a side effect, not a destination. Let's go darker. In 2010, researchers studying reconsolidation found that even short-term memories could be disrupted and replaced. Participants were shown images paired with shocks. Then, the memory was triggered, and before it reconsolidated, they were shown a new, safe image. Result? The fear vanished. The old memory had been overwritten. Now imagine this on a larger scale. Your happiest memory, your most painful failure. Do you think it's untouched? Do you think it hasn't been edited every time you replayed it? Even the people in your memories are not themselves. They're avatars, characters you animate. Your mother's face when you were 5, a blur sculpted by photos, by mood, by forgetting. Your first kiss, a fragment stitched from emotion and fantasy. Nothing is raw, nothing is pure. Everything is touched by fiction. And yet you base your sense of self on this gallery of distortions. Let's make it worse. Memory isn't even stored in one place. It's distributed across networks: visual, auditory, emotional, procedural. There is no core memory. There's only a web. Damage one part of the brain, and a detail disappears. Damage another, and the memory still exists, but the feeling is gone. Your mind is a museum with lights flickering out, room by room, while you continue to give the tour. So who are you without your favorite exhibit? Think about dreams. The way you wake up with a sense of deep experience, then watch it dissolve in seconds. Dreams prove that vivid memories can vanish without warning. that entire lifetimes can be lost over a yawn dot. What if waking life is no different? Every day, you forget most of what happened. Every week, you misremember key conversations. Every month, you lose names, faces, intentions. And you accept it because the feeling of continuity remains. But feelings lie. Every time you say, I remember, you're lying. Every time you say, that's how it happened, you're gambling. Every time you think about who you were, you're inventing someone. And yet, you carry guilt for things you're not even sure happened. You hold on to grudges, built on corrupted files. You mourn a version of yourself that may never have existed. You are grieving a phantom. And here's the final. Cruelty. Even the act of forgetting feels like a failure of self. But forgetting isn't failure. It's inevitable. It's programmed that you are never meant to remember it all. If you could, you'd collapse. The average human lifespan is made up of over 20 million minutes. How many of yours can you truly access? 10, 50, 100? Everything else has evaporated. And yet, you still believe you are whole. You still believe the story is real. But if your memory is mostly fiction, if your past is a corrupted novel, you insist on reading aloud. If the scenes you treasure were shot on a broken camera, edited by panic, and rewatched through nostalgia, how much of you is real? And if your memories are nothing but fog and echo, who is it that still believes they're true? Section 4. Language is the prison you think is thought. You believe you think in words. That your thoughts are made of language. But language is not thought. Language is a cage. You think you're free because you can describe your pain, your love, your fears. But the moment you name a feeling, you amputate it. You reduce its shape to a symbol. You turn infinite sensation into a mouth noise and pretend that complexity has survived. You've never felt anything truly in language. Ludwig Wittgenstein said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." But the deeper truth is more violent. The shape of your mind is the shape of your grammar. Take color. The Himba people of Namibia categorize color differently than you. They have no single word for blue, but dozens for green. In tests, they can distinguish shades you cannot see. Literally see. Their eyes register the same photons, but their minds categorize differently. Because of language. Your perception is not raw. It is sorted by vocabulary. And what you lack words. For you stop noticing. There are emotions you felt that English can never capture, like lidost, a Czech word for a kind of agonizing remorse mixed with sudden awareness of one's smallness, or mono no aware, a Japanese term for the gentle sadness of impermanence. You have felt these, but without the words, the feelings drifted into abstraction, into silence. You never explored them. You never named them. So you forgot they were real. How much of your emotional life is missing simply because your language doesn't allow it? Now, consider how language shapes your thoughts. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis argues that the structure of a language influences its speaker's worldview. Not just what you say, but what you're able to think. In Hopi, there are no verb tenses for past, present, and future. In Pirahu, a language from the Amazon, there are no fixed numbers, only vague quantities. In Aymara, a language of the Andes, the past is described as in front and the future as behind. Their concept of time moves the opposite way. Do you see the shape of the trap now? You think linearly because your syntax moves that way. You perceive time as a sequence because your verbs demand it. You believe in discrete objects, in identities, in selves, because your language demands subjects and predicates. But none of this is metaphysical. It's grammatical. You are a prisoner of the structure that describes your thoughts. And language is built on metaphors. Every concept you hold dear is metaphor stacked upon metaphor. Time is money. Thoughts are objects. Life is a journey. You say you grasp an idea. You wrestle with problems. You carry trauma, but none of these things are true. They are crutches, poetic shortcuts, cognitive prosthetics, and once a metaphor calcifies, it becomes invisible. You stop questioning it. You start thinking with it. Now, consider how language constructs your identity. You say, I am sad. But language doesn't allow you to say, there is sadness moving through this moment. No, your grammar forces you to attach the feeling to a self, to own it. I am anxious. I am broken. I am a failure. You weld transient experiences to permanent identity using 3 words. I am an adjective. You think you're being honest, but feelings are not identity. And language tricks you into believing they are. This is why children cry before they can explain. Because their experience is raw, not yet corrupted by sentence structure, not yet trimmed by vocabulary. Then we teach them to use words. And they stop feeling. They start naming. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke warned, things aren't all so tangible and sayable as people would usually have us believe. Most experiences are unsayable, but you keep trying. You keep writing journal entries and tweets and long texts to people who have already forgotten you. And every time, you reduce the original experience to something smaller. Language is not an expression of thought. It's a compromise. And yet you organize your entire consciousness around it. Your inner voice, that monologue inside your head, it's just language pretending to be you. A narrator who never stops describing, categorizing, labeling. But when you try to stop, when you sit in silence, try to meditate, what happens? The voice panics. It fills the silence. It refuses to let go. Because the moment you stop speaking to yourself, you dissolve. And here's the cruelty. Language doesn't only trap you, it isolates you. You will never know if anyone means what you mean when they say love. You will never know if your pain is their pain. You speak in approximations, hoping for resonance. But all communication is guesswork. Even now, as you read this, we're using a shared code built from centuries of theft. Latin, German, French, Arabic, Greek. Each word you know has been taken, reshaped, misunderstood. The word sincere comes from Latin sign cera, without wax. Sculptors would fill cracks in marble with wax to hide flaws. To be sincere was to present the unpolished truth, but the word changed. Now it means earnestness. Now it's a gesture, not a sacrifice. Language always decays, and so do the thoughts built on it. Still think you understand yourself? Then speak your deepest truth out loud. Say it now. Whisper it. Did it feel complete? Did the words hold the weight of what you meant? Or did they fall short, as they always do? And if every thought you have is filtered through this crumbling code, if your mind is shaped by metaphors you didn't choose, if the structure of your speech is the skeleton of your reality, how can you be sure your deepest beliefs weren't simply installed by the grammar you never questioned? And if you can't even think outside the language that built you, who exactly is thinking right now? Your body is a stranger wearing your face. You think you have a body, but you don't. You are a body, and you have never truly met it. Start with your hands. Look at them. Can you feel the blood rushing under your skin? Can you command each finger individually with absolute precision, without practice or hesitation? You live inside this machine, and yet you don't know how it works. You cannot even feel your organs unless they scream. You are trapped in a device with no manual. Philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty said, "The body is our general medium for having a world." But that medium lies to you constantly. The you who makes decisions, the conscious mind, is not in charge. Your conscious self is the last to know anything. Studies show that your brain initiates actions milliseconds before you are aware of deciding them. The body acts, and then you explain. You call that explanation will. It is not will. It is narration. You are not the driver. You are the commentator, speaking after the car has already moved. Let's move deeper into your proprioception, your body's sense of its position in space. Ever noticed how you can touch your nose with eyes closed? Or walk through a dark hallway without crashing into walls? You don't see your limbs. You sense them except when you don't. Phantom limb syndrome shows us that even missing body parts can still be felt, can still ache, twitch, burn. And mirror box therapy, which uses visual illusions to heal invisible pain, proves that the body can be tricked into comfort or suffering. What then is the body if it can hallucinate itself? You say, I feel pain. But how? Pain is not objective. It is not even fixed in battlefield reports. Wounded soldiers often report no pain until they are safe in experiments. People with identical injuries report wildly different pain levels depending on context, expectation, and emotion. Pain is not the wound. It is the interpretation of the wound. And what about ownership? The rubber hand illusion reveals how easily the brain can adopt a fake body part as its own. Participants placed a real hand out of sight, while a fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. Both hands are stroked in sync. After just moments, participants feel the touch on the rubber hand. Some even flinch if it's threatened. Your sense of physical self can be transferred to an object with no nerve endings, no blood, no reality. This means the boundary of your body is negotiable, that the line between you and not you is a convenience. But what happens when your own body becomes the threat? Autoimmune disorders, chronic pain, neurodegeneration. Your flesh begins attacking itself. You dissolve from the inside, and the most terrifying part? You can't tell it to stop. This isn't betrayal. That implies you were ever in control. You eat, but don't digest. Your gut bacteria do. You breathe, but don't regulate your oxygen-carbon ratio. You blink, but only because your nervous system demands it. Your heartbeat, your hormone regulation, your immune responses, your cellular repair, all of it happens without you. Your body is a cathedral of unconscious automation, and your consciousness is just the final candle flickering in the back row, pretending to lead the choir. Still think it's your body? Let's turn to gender, to identity, to embodiment. What if you don't feel right in your body? What if you look in the mirror and see someone else? This isn't delusion, it's dissonance. Dysphoria is proof that the body and the self are not united, but negotiated, that the interface between flesh and awareness is fragile, political, temporary. And what of aging? Every 7 to 10 years, most of your cells are replaced. You are molting slowly across a lifetime. The face you see today is not the one you had as a child. It's not even the one you had 5 years ago. And yet you say, this is me. No doubt, it is who you're wearing. And what a strange outfit it is. Your brain, a gelatinous organ, floats in fluid, shielded from light, sound, touch. It sees nothing, hears nothing, feels nothing. All it receives are electrical signals. And from that, it invents color, texture, pain, desire. You do not experience the world. You experience your brain's hallucination of the world, filtered through a meat suit you can't fully command, in a universe you can't fully touch. Listen carefully. Your entire visual field is built from photons that never touch you. Light bounces off surfaces, enters your eye, and is absorbed by retinal cells. From that data, your brain invents a 3D landscape, but you never see the object. You see the light that bounced off it, and that light is already old by the time it arrives. Even sight is a delay. A translation dot, and then there's the immune system. A biochemical military you never meet, working without thanks or permission. Sometimes it misfires. Sometimes it turns you allergic to sunlight, to food, to your own cells. Do you think you control your body? Go 48 hours without sleep and watch it revolt. Watch your cognition disintegrate. Your memory collapse. Your mood implode. Your body pulls the plug, and you are too weak to stop it. Now consider what happens after death. Your body persists. For days, for weeks, flesh rots, bacteria feast, bones linger, but your mind? Gone, snuffed like vapor. The body remains after the you is gone. So, which was real? You, the flicker of awareness that can't digest a meal without help? Or this hunk of carbon and calcium that continues to rot long after you've vanished? If you're honest, your body is not your home. It is your parasite. And sometimes it forgets. You're even there. Still think you own this skin? Still think your heartbeat is a gift? Still think you're the one pulling the strings? Then answer this. If your body can lie to you, abandon you, betray you, and forget you, what part of you has ever truly been alive? Time doesn't pass you. Do you say time flies? You say time heals. You say time moves on, but time doesn't move. You do. You are the one slipping away, moment by moment, shedding yourself like ash from a fire you cannot stop burning. You've been taught to think of time as a line, a river flowing from past to future. Always forward, always onward. But that's a metaphor, a lie, a crutch. Physics does not support it. Experience does not confirm it. Your own memories betray it. Let's start with Einstein. According to general relativity, time is not universal. It bends, it warps. Gravity slows it. Speed distorts it. Astronauts on the International Space Station age slightly slower than you. The GPS system in your phone has to account for relativistic time dilation just to function. Without corrections, your location would be off by miles. This is not science fiction. This is the architecture of your reality. Time is not a constant. It is a variable, a dimension, like width or depth. You move through it, but not like you walk through a hallway. It moves with you, warps around you, reacts to you, and you don't experience it directly. You are stitched together by memory, assumption, and decay. Entropy, the great cosmic accountant, is the real timekeeper. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that systems move from order to disorder. Glass shatters, never reassembles. Corpses rot, never revive. You interpret this directionality as the arrow of time. But that's not time. That's decay. And the decay is you. Your cells age. Your memories blur. Your options narrow. This is what you feel when you say time is passing. It isn't. You are. Let's go deeper. Your perception of time is malleable. Wait 5 minutes in a dentist's chair, it feels like an hour. Spend 5 hours laughing with someone you love, it feels like 10 minutes. Time doesn't fly or crawl. You distort it. Experiments confirm this. Subjects exposed to high adrenaline experiences, skydiving, accidents, moments of terror, often report time slowing down. Not because the world slowed, but because the brain accelerated, formed more memories, increased attention. The experience felt richer and thus longer, which means your experience of time is just the density of memory. More memory equals longer time. Less memory equals lost time. So what does that say about your years spent scrolling, waiting, repeating? Those years may have passed, but they barely existed. You don't remember time. You remember what happened during time. And if nothing happened, nothing novel, nothing meaningful, then those months, those years collapse into a blur. How many? Years of your life are already gone, not just past, but unlived. Now let's reverse the arrow. You imagine the past is fixed, that it happened, and you are merely its result. But what if the past isn't as solid as you think? Quantum mechanics introduces the idea of retrocausality, where effects can, under very specific conditions, influence causes. In some interpretations of the famous double-slit experiment, particles behave differently depending on how you measure them, even if the decision to measure comes after the particle has moved. This isn't settled science, but it cracks the wall of causality. And once causality cracks, so does time. Block universe theory tells us the past, present, and future all coexist. Like a DVD already burned every frame there, every event inevitable. You are not writing the story. You are reading it, one frame at a time. The future isn't coming. It's already waiting. So what is choice in a frozen film? What is freedom in a world where the end has already happened? And what is time if every second you'll ever live already exists? Still think you're moving through time? Maybe time is moving through you. Or maybe nothing moves at all. Maybe movement is an illusion born of decay, born of forgetting, born of the desperate need to believe that tomorrow will be different than today. Tomorrow is a concept, and you are a creature built from them. Do you remember when you were 5? Do you remember the sensation of it? That was you, wasn't it? But where is that you now? That child is gone, not metaphorically. Literally. Every cell replaced, every belief rewritten. Every voice changed, every dream died. And yet you insist that you are the same person because you have no better lie. But the truth is this: your past self is a stranger, your future self is a fiction, and the present is a blur. So where exactly do you exist? Not in time, not in memory, not in the body that fails you. You are the gap between seconds, the skipped beat between two thoughts, a flicker mistaken for fire. You don't move through time, you evaporate through it. And each breath you take is a surrender to the collapse. Each word you read, a step further into entropy. Each second that feels like a moment is just decay, dressed up as meaning. And if time doesn't pass, if all things already are, if you are simply sliding down a track carved before your birth, why do you still act like you're going somewhere? Why do you still run, knowing the finish line is already behind you? You have never made a single choice you believe you choose, that your life is the result of your will, your decisions, your freedom, but you have never made a single choice. Not really. Free will is not an instinct. It is a defense mechanism. Retroactive illusions stitched into memory to protect you from the terror of causality. Let's begin with the simplest observation. You cannot choose the thoughts you think. Try it. Right now, choose your next thought. Not react to one, not follow one, not narrate one. Choose it from silence, from nothing. Did you? Or did something just arise? This is not trivial. It is the ground beneath your feet, because if you can't control the emergence of your own thoughts, then who is choosing? And if you are not choosing, then what exactly are you? Let's go to neuroscience. In the 1980s, Benjamin Libet performed a series of experiments that shook the philosophical world. Participants were asked to perform a simple action, flexing their wrist whenever they felt like it. They reported the precise moment they became aware of the urge to move. Electrodes monitored their brains. The results were devastating. The brain's readiness potential, the signal that an action was being prepared, occurred hundreds of milliseconds before participants became consciously aware of deciding. In other words, your brain decides before you do. You are not the author, are the witness. And if you think you can override this, make a real decision, then try this. Pick a number between 1 and 10. Go on. Got it? Now ask yourself, why that number? What chain of associations led to it? What prior experiences, visual cues, random memories influenced that choice? Did you see that number earlier today? Was it your age once? Did you choose? Or did it arrive? And now go deeper. You didn't choose your genetics. You didn't choose your brain structure. You didn't choose your parents, your childhood, your traumas, your education, your neurochemistry. You didn't choose your desires. You didn't choose. What repulses you? What attracts you? What scares you? What comforts you? And yet every decision you make is rooted in those things. So where is the freedom? You can say, but I still have control over my actions. But even that control is the result of prior causes. Habits formed. Inhibitions learned. You didn't choose to be someone with self-control. You became that person through experiences. You didn't select. You didn't make you. So how can you take credit for what you decide? Let's return to psychology. When people are hypnotized, they perform actions and experience emotions without any conscious decision to do so. Under suggestion, they can laugh uncontrollably, cry, feel pain, feel heat, even forget their names. Believe they are making choices, but they aren't. Their behavior is being driven by unseen forces. And yet, it feels voluntary. How is that different from your everyday life? You think you're in charge only because it feels like you are. But feeling is not. Proof. It's narrative. And now let's poison the narrative even more. You've heard of moral luck. Two drivers both drink. One hits a pedestrian, the other doesn't. One is condemned, the other goes home. Same decision. Same action. Different outcomes. Different judgment. Luck determines guilt. And if luck determines morality, then what part of you is truly responsible? You think prison is for the guilty, but often it's for the unlucky, and the unlucky are just as unchosen as everything else. Now let's step into the abyss. If every choice you make is shaped by a chain of causes that you didn't initiate, if your thoughts are echoes, if your preferences are installed, then your decisions are dominoes, falling in a pattern written before you were born. But your brain can't tolerate that. So it builds a myth. The myth of the CHOOSER. The self who stands apart from cause and effect. The self who decides. But that self is a post-it note, stuck to a waterfall. The choice is already falling. The brain adds a label on the way down. And here's the most chilling part. Even your awareness of not choosing wasn't chosen. You are the result of a sentence you never started writing. You believe in punishment, redemption, merit. But these are systems built on the myth of authorship. As if you wrote your desires. As if you built your own mind. You didn't, and you never will? Still not convinced? Then try this. Choose to stop loving someone. Choose to be aroused by what repulses you. Choose to forget a memory that haunts you. Choose to stop feeling afraid. You can't, because you don't control what arises in you. You only narrate it after the fact. And if all you can do is narrate, what power do you really have? You say, but I can choose how to respond. But even your response is caused. By past, by biology, by invisible winds blowing through you. Still think you're free? Then consider this. The only you that believes in free will was built by a world that needed you to believe it. A society that runs on guilt. A legal system that runs on blame. A religion that runs on sin. The illusion of choice isn't accidental. A control mechanism. Because a person who knows they aren't free is a person who cannot be ruled. So you are taught to believe in freedom, even as your biology betrays it, even as your decisions arise from dust and echo. And if you can't choose, if your entire life is just a playing out of causes you didn't, because If every yes and no was written in the DNA of stars long dead, then what is left of you? And what will you blame when the next choice you make destroys you? The people you love are fictional. You say you know them, their face, their laugh, the way they breathe when they sleep. You say, I love you, like it touches something real, but you don't love them. You love your idea of them. That idea? It's not them. It never was. Let's begin with something quiet. Every time you recall someone, you care about their voice, their face, their smile. You are not accessing them. You are reconstructing a simulation. Your brain does not store people like files. It stores fragmented impressions, scent, sound, movement, mood. You weave them together, fill in gaps, overlay desires, erase flaws. What you call love is mostly projection. You say, I know you, but you don't even know yourself. And if your own thoughts are shadows on a wall, how can you ever claim to know another? Let's go deeper. Theory of mind is the ability to infer other people's internal states. It's a guess, a prediction, a cognitive shortcut based on pattern recognition. You don't actually know what anyone feels. You model it based on how you would feel. You don't empathize with others. You empathize with your version of them. So when you say, they hurt me, what you really mean is, my version of them didn't behave as I predicted. And when they say, I love you, you translate that phrase into something it never meant. Because love is a cipher, and we each decode it in isolation. Still think you know the people closest to you? Consider this. Every single person you love is living a life inside their head that you will never enter. They have memories you'll never hear, desires they'll never say aloud, contradictions they've never confronted, shame they've buried. So deep it leaks out as silence. You will never truly know what they think of you. You say, they would never do that, but you don't know what they've already done, or what they will do when you're not watching, or what they dream of doing when no one will ever know. You are in love with a character you wrote inside your own skull. This is why betrayal feels like madness. Not because someone changed, but because they broke the script you assigned them. You mourn not just the person, but the narrative. You love the idea that they would never hurt you. You love the idea that they were predictable, safe, pure. But people are not ideas. They are engines of contradiction. Even the ones you think you understand best. Think of your parents. You learned their voices before you learned language. You built your sense of safety, of trust, of reality around them, but they had entire lives before you. Regrets you'll never know. Traumas they never confessed. And love, if it was love shaped by limitations you inherited without asking. The mother or father you carry is not the same person they are. It is a mask, stitched together from moments and filtered through need. You never met them. You only met what they showed, what you could handle, what your child mind could survive. Still think love is real? Then explain this. You can stop loving someone over time, through silence, through distance. But where does the love go? Does it rot? Does it fade? Or was it never real to begin with? Did you simply stop maintaining the illusion? And if love needs maintenance, if it decays without repetition, attention, memory, then what was it ever made of? Let's turn to psychology. Attachment theory tells us that how we love is shaped by early experiences. Anxious, avoidant, disorganized, secure. These are not conscious choices. They are scars. Survival strategies. So when you fall in love, you are not falling into another person. You are falling into your own pattern. Your own wound. You don't choose who you love. Recognize them. They match the architecture of your trauma. And when it ends, you say, they changed. But really, You finally saw what was always there. Still not convinced? Let's consider grief. You cry not because the person is gone, but because your version of them can no longer be updated. They've become static, frozen in place. You're mourning the end of the illusion's evolution. Their voice in your head becomes a loop. Their memory becomes a sculpture, unchangeable, unforgivable. You love them more after they die because they can no longer contradict you. You say they were everything, but you mean they were the only person I let fill this role. And that role was always written by you. Now think about this. If every person you love is filtered through your expectations, if your brain creates a model of them and interacts with that model, if your feelings are anchored in simulation, not reality, then what are you really loving? Them or the story you needed to survive? And if you've never met them, not as they truly are, if you've only ever embraced a mask, then ask yourself, have you ever truly been loved? Or have you just been a character in someone else's fiction? The self is a story you're forced to tell. You say, I, you say, me. You say, this is who I am. But who is speaking? Who are you? Beneath the name, the memories, the voice in your head? You think you are a self, a singular, continuous, unified being. But the self is not a fact. It is a story. And you are not the author. Let's begin with something. Quiet. Split brain patients. Those who've had the corpus callosum severed to treat. Epilepsy reveal a devastating truth. When the two hemispheres of the brain are disconnected, they begin acting independently. One hand buttons a shirt, the other unbuttons it. One hand writes one answer, the other writes a different one. Two selves in one skull, neither aware of the other, and yet both believe they are you. Which one is the real you? Both? Neither? Or is you just the voice that narrates whichever part is speaking loudest? Let's look deeper. The default mode network, your brain's resting state. Activity is where your sense of self emerges. It activates when you're doing nothing, when you're daydreaming, when you're remembering, when you're rehearsing arguments. You'll never have . It is the engine of your internal monologue. But when this network is disrupted through meditation, psychedelics, trauma, something happens. The self dissolves. Not gradually, not gently. It vanishes. People describe it as ego death. As floating. As finally seeing the truth. And the truth is this. The self is not permanent. It is a loop, a recursive feedback pattern. A mirror reflecting a mirror, reflecting a mirror. Let's turn to psychology. Your personality feels stable. You say, I am an introvert or I'm ambitious. But Big Five personality studies show traits shift over time. You are not the same person at 15, at 25, at 40. Preferences change. Habits change. Values change. The self mutates. And yet you insist it's the same entity because you remember being that person, because you need the illusion of continuity. But continuity is not identity. A tree and the axe that cuts it are both made of atoms, but they are not the same thing. You say, that's not like me, when you act out of character. But the truth is, you have no character. You have patterns. Scripts. Roles. And when the context changes, so do you. You are kind to your grandmother, cruel in traffic. Clever with friends, silent around authority. Which version is you? They all are or none are, because the self is assembled after the moment passes. You do not act from identity. You build identity to explain action. This is why we lie to ourselves. Not out of malice, but out of narrative necessity. You must believe. You are consistent, or the story unravels. Now consider dissociative identity disorder, what used to be called multiple personalities. Different names, different memories, different voices in the same body. One brain. Many selves. This is not fiction. This is fact. And if one brain can house many selves, what does that say about your one self? What happens when the self contradicts itself? You feel guilt. You say, that wasn't really me. But who was? It? If you are the sum of your choices, what happens when your choices fracture? You become a storyteller. You edit. You justify. You turn pain into plot. You say, that happened for a reason. You say, it made me stronger. But these are not truths. They are coping mechanisms. You cannot live with chaos. So, you write a script, and the script becomes your mask. Let's go darker. Language creates identity. You say, I am sad. But that turns a fleeting emotion into a permanent state. You say, I am broken. And you believe it. But these are just phrases, constructs, labels you were given, or learned to give yourself. Without language, the self collapses. Without memory, the self dissolves. This is why Alzheimer's terrifies you, because it strips the story away and reveals the hollow core. Still think you know who you are? Then try this. Describe yourself without using your job, your hobbies, your beliefs, or your past, without your memories, without your fears, without your name. Who are you? What remains? A voice? A sensation? An awareness? Even that is unstable. Your awareness flickers. You lose track of hours. You disappear in sleep, in trauma, in repetition. You are not constant. You are not unified. You are not whole. You are a mask made of memories. A collage of borrowed traits, a reaction to history you didn't choose. When you die, the story ends, not the person, because there was never a person, only the performance. And if the self is a performance, if every I is just a thread in a larger fiction, then who exactly is watching? And what happens when the story no longer believes itself? Memory is a lie you tell to stay sane. You think memory is a record, that the past lives in your mind like footage in an archive. You rewind, you rewatch, you relive. But memory isn't a recording, it's a reconstruction. And you are the core, unreliable narrator. Let's begin with the basic betrayal. Every time you recall an event, you alter it. You pull the file from the shelf, examine it, touch it, then put it back changed. Neuroscience calls this reconsolidatation. That it means memory is plastic, malleable. Each act of remembering is also an act of rewriting. You are not remembering the event. You are remembering the last time you remembered it. And yet you trust your memories more than anything, even when they lie. Let's look at Elizabeth Loftus's experiments on false memories. Participants were shown videos of car crashes. Later, they were asked how fast the cars were going. When? They smashed into each other. Others were asked how fast the cars were going when they bumped. The verb changed their answers. And more chillingly, some reported seeing broken glass. There was no glass. One word altered the past. In another experiment, participants were told about a childhood event lost in a mall, crying, rescued by a stranger. Entirely fabricated. A week later, many not only believed it had happened, they added details. I remember the smell. I think I was wearing blue. It must have been near the food court. Nothing happened, but the memory formed anyway. If your mind can fabricate detail from suggestion, if your brain can insert fiction into autobiography, then how much of your past is real? Or worse, how much of it was installed? Let's go deeper. Trauma doesn't just distort memory, it rewires it. People with PTSD often have hyper-detailed, invasive memories of certain moments and complete blackouts of others. Your mind isn't preserving the past. It's curating it, censoring it. And what it censors shapes you. You say, I don't remember much from childhood. You say, my memory's a little fuzzy. But it's not just fuzz. It's fractured. Your sense of self is built on a foundation of missing scenes. Now, let's look at how memory deceives emotionally. You recall a breakup, a betrayal, a moment of shame. You say, I was devastated. But the truth is, your present self is coloring the past. Psychologists call this affective forecasting, your tendency to misremember how events actually felt. You exaggerate, you edit, build a moral lesson out of pain to justify survival. You say, I grew from that. But maybe you didn't. Maybe you're just smoothing the jagged edge. Because without narrative, pain is unbearable. Still trust your memory? Then explain déjà vu, that eerie sense you've been here before. That moment that collapses past and present. It's a glitch. The brain misfires, mistaking the present for recall. But the feeling is real. Convincing. So how can you be sure any of? Your memories aren't just long, slow déjà vu? What if your most vivid moment never happened? And what about dreams? They feel real too. You've awakened in panic, in sorrow, in ecstasy. But you forget 90% of dreams. Within minutes, they vanish. Like most of your waking life. Because here's the deeper horror. You forget almost everything. Studies show the average human forgets 90% of what happens daily. Your most vivid week 10 years ago? Gone. Your happiest day? Eroded. The face of a friend you saw each day for years? Faded into fog. You say you've lived for decades, but you only remember fragments. So how much of your life have you actually lived? If you forget most of it, if you only remember highlights and trauma, then what does that say about the continuity of you? And what if the few memories you do hold are wrong? You say, I remember how they treated me. But your memories aren't neutral. They're judgment. They are how you justify who you became. You don't remember what happened. You remember what needed to happen to explain the person you are now. Your memory is a weapon, a tool, a mask, and sometimes a trap. Ask anyone grieving a lost loved one. You remember their warmth. Their voice, their touch. But as the years pass, those details blur. You begin to question, was their laugh really like that? Did they really say those words? Were they really that kind? And when the memory fades, so does the person. Because we do not lose people when they die, we lose them when we can no longer remember them vividly. They vanish as their edges dissolve. You say, they'll always live in my heart. But your heart forgets too. And so you begin to rewrite. Romanticize. You sanitize. You canonize. And the real person is gone. Replaced by fiction. Now, consider this. If memory is reconstruction, if it fades, shifts, lies, and invents, then who are you? Because your sense of self, your identity, is memory arranged over time. You say, I know who I am because I remember my past. But if that past is unstable, then your self is a dream walking upright, a myth you keep retelling so. You don't disintegrate. Still think you know what happened? Still think you're shaped by truth? Then try to recall your childhood without emotion. Try to see it clean. Try to extract one pure moment, uncorrupted by narrative. You can't, because you're not remembering. You're rewriting. And if you're rewriting, then what was the original? Was there ever one? Or have you been editing the novel so long, you forgot it was fiction to begin with? Language is a cage you mistake for thought. You think in words. You speak to yourself in your own head. You build ideas from language. Name your emotions. Explain your reality. But what if the words aren't helping you understand? What if they're the very reason you can't? Language is not a window. It's a filter. And everything you believe is seen through that blur. Let's start with a simple, damning truth. There are thoughts you cannot have because you do not have the words for them. In linguistics, This is called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, the idea that the structure of a language shapes the thoughts of its speakers, not just how they say things, but what they're capable of thinking. In the Amazon, the Pirahu people have no fixed words for numbers. Beyond 1, 2, and many. Ask them to count objects beyond that, and the task collapses. They do not see numbers the way you do, not because they lack intelligence, but because their language prevents it. And if your language limits what you can count, what else is it? Hiding? In some Aboriginal Australian languages, directions aren't expressed as left and right, but as north, south, east, and west. Speakers know their orientation at all times. Without effort. It's built into the words. And if your language doesn't encode it, your brain doesn't track it. Still think you see the world as it is? Now consider this. English has one word for snow. Inuktitut has over 50. To you. It's just white powder. To them. It's nuance, depth, survival. And if you cannot name the difference, you do not perceive the difference. You are not seeing the world. You are seeing the world described. You think words are tools, but they are scaffolding. Built by others, imposed upon you before you could choose otherwise. You say, sad. But what does it mean? Does it mean grief or longing? Does it mean numbness or rage you've turned inward? You use one word to cover a spectrum, because that's the word you were given. And so you live a life of mismatched labels. Your joy is not the same as theirs. Your fear is not the same, but you call it the same because there's no other option. Still trust your inner voice. That voice is stitched together from borrowed phrases, from your parents. Your teachers, media. You didn't invent your thoughts. You inherited them. Your first language was installed without consent. Your second, if you have one, came later. Proof that even your inner monologue can be overwritten. You think in words, but the words aren't yours. And they lie. They create categories where there are none. They separate what is fluid. They freeze what is alive. You say, tree. But what is a tree? Is it the roots, the trunk, the leaves, the seed it came from, the oxygen it produces? Where does tree begin and end? You say self. But what is a self? The word implies boundary. Consistency. But we've already seen those. Are illusions. So is the word keeping you sane? Or keeping you from seeing the truth? Let's go deeper. Words simplify. They compress the infinite into the speakable. But in that compression, they lose meaning. They flatten reality. They replace awe with utility. You say, death. But that single word cannot contain its implications. Body rotting. The light leaving the eyes. The memories dissolving. The irreversible. Absence. The word hides the horror, that it makes the unbearable speakable. Which is to say, DENIABL. Now think of trauma. You say, this happened, but that this is a placeholder for 1,000 sensations, 1,000 silent screams, and you reduce it to one sentence. One story, because the language cannot bear its full weight. So even your pain is caged by vocabulary. Still believe that speaking your truth is enough? The moment you use words, you betray it. Language is not. Expression. It's translation. And all translation is loss. Your inner voice, the one narrating your thoughts right now, it is not the truth. It is a narrator, guessing what the truth might be in the only language it knows. But some truths are pre-linguistic. Think of music. You weep, you shiver, you ache, but you cannot explain why, because there are no words for it, because it bypasses the filter, and the filter hates that. Still think language is neutral? Then explain propaganda. Advertising. Spin. Lies, told through carefully chosen words. Words that sound true, because they've been honed to bypass your doubt. Language is not just how we share ideas. It's how we implant them. Your reality is not constructed by atoms. It is constructed by nouns. And verbs. By metaphors. You didn't choose. By labels. You can't escape. Ask yourself if your thoughts are built from a limited alphabet, if your feelings are bound to words that flatten them, if your beliefs were formed from definitions you didn't define, then what part of you has ever been free? What do you truly feel that you haven't already reduced into language? And if the words are all you have, but the words are wrong, what is it exactly that you think you know? You're not observing reality, you're generating it. You believe your senses tell you the truth. You think sight, sound, touch, taste, these are windows to the world. That when you open your eyes, you're seeing what's there. But you're not. You're hallucinating. Constantly. Collectively. Predictive lie. You are not observing reality. You are constructing it. Let's begin with the brain. Your visual cortex receives signals from the eyes, yes, but most of its input doesn't come from them. It comes from itself, from predictions you are not seeing, you are expecting. And when what you expect matches the incoming data, your brain says, that's real. But what you call reality is a guess that worked? Let's turn to the work of Anil Seth, cognitive neuroscientist. He describes perception as a controlled hallucination. Your brain continuously creates models of the world and compares them to sensory input. When there's a mismatch, it updates the model. You think you hear a voice in the distance. It turns out to be the wind. Your model adjusts. But for a moment, the hallucination was real to you. And that moment is every moment. Your entire life is lived inside a guessing machine. Now look at the blind spot. There is a literal hole in your vision where the optic nerve meets the retina. You don't see it. Why? Because your brain fills it in with what it expects to be there. Not what's there. What it assumes is there. It's not seeing. It's patching. Still think your senses are reliable? Then consider optical illusions. The dress, is it blue and black or white and gold? Two people look at the same image. See two different realities because perception is not reception. It's interpretation. Now go deeper. Color is not real. It is not out there. Color is a brain response to wavelength. It does not exist without an observer. A flower has no color in darkness. Reflects light. Yes, but red only exists because a brain interprets the signal that way. Your brain doesn't detect color. It creates it. So when you say, the sky is blue, you're not describing the sky. You're describing your model. Still think touch is real? Your sense of touch isn't in your hands. It's in your brain. When you touch something, you're interpreting nerve signals. And sometimes, the brain gets it wrong. Phantom limb syndrome. Amputees feel pain in limbs that are no longer there. The body is gone, but the map in the brain remains. So the pain continues. The body is a suggestion. Not a reality. Even your sense of self-location is a construct. Your awareness feels centered behind your eyes, but that's just where your model puts the camera. The self isn't in your head. It's in your model of the head. And when that model breaks during trauma, near death, meditation, or dissociation, you float. You separate. You realize you were never in anything to begin with. Now, consider the dream. In dreams, you see. You hear, you taste, you feel, without any sensory input. Your brain simulates an entire world. It generates sound without ears. Light without photons. Time without clocks. And you believe it. Until you don't. So what makes waking life different? Only this. Your hallucination matches others. But shared delusion doesn't mean truth. It means consensus. Still think you're in touch with reality? Your brain edits out 99% of sensory input. Too much noise, too much data, You don't see your nose, your brain deletes it. You don't hear the hum of electricity until the power cuts and silence screams. You don't feel your clothes until you think about them. Now they're itchy, aren't they? Your attention is a spotlight, and the rest is swallowed by darkness. What you call real is just what survives your filter. And the filter isn't neutral dot, it's tuned by evolution. Dot dot for truth, but for survival. Your brain doesn't want accuracy dot it. Wants utility dot a predator in the grass. See it, 1,000 irrelevant blades of grass? Ignore them. You don't see the world as it is. You see what you need to survive, which means the world you experience, the colors, the sounds, the meanings are shaped by pressures you don't control. Now look at the interface theory of perception, proposed by cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman. He argues that perceiving reality as it truly is would be a liability, like a computer user interface. Your brain gives you icon symbols, shortcuts, not truth. You don't need to see the electrons in the folder icon. You just need to know where to click dot. Likewise, you don't need to see objective reality. You need a usable interface dot, so the world you see is not the world dot, it's the folder icon. A useful lie dot. Now, here's the most disturbing part. If perception is prediction, and your brain is the generator, then where does reality begin? Where is the edge between the hallucination and what actually exists? What if there is no edge? What if all you've ever known is the simulation your brain built for you? What if the colors you see, the sounds you trust, the objects you touch, are just symbols in a game you didn't know you were playing? And what if you've never actually touched the real world at all? What, then, is it that you're living in? Time doesn't exist the way you think it does. You think time moves forward. 1 second, then the next dot, the past behind you, the future ahead. You walk through it like a corridor, but time is not a line dot. It's a trick your mind plays to keep you from collapsing. Let's begin with physics. Einstein's theory of relativity destroyed the notion of absolute time. There is no single universal now. Time passes at different rates depending on speed and gravity. The faster you move, the slower your time runs. The closer you are to a massive object, the more time bends. Astronauts age slower than people on Earth. Clocks tick differently on mountain tops than at sea level. Time is not fixed. It is relative. Elastic. Slippery. Already. Your intuition is broken. But it gets worse. According to Einstein, time and space form a four-dimensional continuum. SPACETIME. And in this fabric, all events past, present, future already exist. Everything that has ever happened, is happening, or will happen is already there. You are not moving through time. You are a creature stitched into a block. Universe frozen in place, experiencing one frame at a time. You are a needle, stuck in a reel of film. The scenes do not move. Only your awareness does. You call it the passage of time. But the reel is already written. Now go deeper. Julian Barber, a theoretical physicist, argues that time doesn't exist at all. What we call time is simply change, a series of configurations, like frames of a movie. Each frame is static, moment a complete, timeless state, and what you call flow is your brain linking one still image to the next. Like a flip book, you're not in time. You're in a sequence of frozen nows. But why does it feel like it moves? Because your brain cannot handle simultaneity. It cannot see all frames at once. So it constructs before and after to make sense of its limitations. You do not remember the past. You remember remembering. And the future? You don't predict it. You construct it based on habits, probabilities, patterns. The mind builds time the same way. It builds self or color or meaning. It's not observing time. It's generating the illusion of time to survive. Still believe in clocks? Clocks measure movement of gears, of atoms, of electrons, but they don't measure time itself. They measure change. They measure rhythm. The ticking second hand does not prove that time is flowing. It proves that something moved. That's it. Change is real. But time? Time is an interpretation of change. Let's go to psychology. Studies show that time perception is wildly unstable. Under stress, time slows. During trauma, moments stretch into eternity. In boredom, seconds crawl. In flow states, hours vanish. So, which version is real? The one on the wall or the one in your head? Neither. Because real time cannot be experienced, only felt. And feeling is unreliable. Still think the past is behind you? Your memory says so. But memory, as we've seen, is not a vault. It's a reconstruction. So the past you remember never really happened that way. It's a version, a fiction. And the future you fear? Also fiction. Your life is bracketed by stories, both equally unreal. Now consider this. Neuroscience tells us your brain operates with a built-in delay. It takes approximately 80 milliseconds for sensory information to reach awareness. What you see, what you hear, you're seeing it after it happens. Every moment is already past by the time you feel it. You're living in a lag. And your brain, desperate for continuity, predicts the immediate future. Make the world feel seamless. You're not experiencing reality. You're hallucinating the next moment based on slightly outdated information. So if time flows, it flows in reverse, from guest to now. Still believe in the present. Zen tells you to live in the now. But the now doesn't exist. Try to find it. By the time you notice it, it's already gone. You say, this is the moment. But you're pointing at a corpse. The now is an event horizon you never touch. A mirage that disappears the instant you focus on it. So what's left? If the past is memory, the future is projection, and the present is a delay, then what is time? It's not a river. It's a loop, a lens, a language your brain uses to narrate change. Chaos is unacceptable. Now go darker. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the block universe model or eternalism, imply that all of time exists simultaneously. This means the future isn't something you move into. It's already there. Waiting. You cannot change it, cannot escape it. You are not making choices. You are following a script. You cannot see. And yet you believe in progress. In healing. In redemption. As if time is a ladder. But what if it's a cage? What if the pain you tried to leave behind isn't in the past at all, but permanently carved into the structure of space-time? What if your worst moment will never be undone? Still trust time? Then ask yourself, if all your joy, all your fear, all your decisions are frozen in place, if you are just a tourist walking through an already built museum of yourself, then what does it mean to move forward? And if time never really flows, then where do you think you're going? Death already happened, and you didn't notice you. Think death is an event, a moment, a last breath. You think it lies ahead, waiting patiently, hidden just out of view. But death is not a single point. It's a process. And for most of you, it's already begun. Let's begin with biology. Cells die every second. Apoptosis programmed. Cell death is not decay. It's maintenance. It's how your body survives. You are built from death. The moment you were born, your body began erasing and replacing itself. Every 7 years, nearly every cell in your body is new. But are you? If your body changes completely, if your bones, your skin, your neurons die and regenerate, then what has stayed the same? Where is the you that continues? You say, I'm still me. But which part? The baby who cried in the dark? The child who feared shadows? The teenager who whispered promises in the night? They're all dead. You do not mourn them because you carry their echo, but their voice? Gone. You are a ship rebuilt plank by plank, and you call it continuity. But the you from 10 years ago would barely recognize this version. You're not afraid of death. You're afraid of admitting how much of you is already missing. Now consider your memories. We've already torn them apart. They lie to you. They fade. They fragment. But they are also your last tether to your former selves. And when you forget a moment, when you lose the sound of a laugh, the face of a friend, the feel of a goodbye, that version of you, one who loved those things, dies. You are dying in layers, not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly, effortlessly. Your mind is an attic of ghosts. You refuse to grieve. Now go deeper, neurologically. Death is not immediate. When the heart stops, the brain continues for seconds, sometimes minutes. Electrical activity flickers, patterns persist, consciousness lingers. You could already be in that state now, trapped in a neural echo your brain doesn't yet recognize as terminal. And if your sense of time collapses at the moment of death, if, like in dreams, an entire lifetime can be replayed in a second, then what if this life is just the dream of a dying mind? What if you already died and your brain is still playing the story so you never have to see the curtain fall? You wouldn't. No, you can't know, because the story insists it's real, because the ending hasn't arrived, because the moment you realize you're dying, it ends. Still believe death is something you'll feel? Let's go further. The death you fear, sudden, violent, or peaceful, is only the final stage. The real death starts long before that. You die when wonder disappears. When curiosity fades. When you stop noticing beauty or stop trusting awe. You die when you repeat patterns you hate. When you do what you said you'd never do. When you smile through rot. You die when you choose comfort over truth. When you defend illusions out of fear. When you tell yourself, this is fine, and no, it's not. You die when your internal voice stops evolving. When it loops. When it hardens. When it becomes static. Death is not an end. It's a flattening, a dimming, and most people begin it long before they ever stop breathing. Still think you're alive? Then look at your routines, your habits, your thoughts. How many are alive, fresh, vital, changing? How many are reruns, ghosts, old decisions masquerading as will? You say, I'm still becoming. But are you? Or are you just waiting for the credits? To roll in a movie you no longer remember choosing? Now consider this. If consciousness is energy, and energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed, then maybe you don't die. Maybe you shift. But if you is a pattern, a structure held together by memory and perception and story, then when the pattern breaks, when the structure collapses, where do you go? If the components remain, but the configuration vanishes, can you really say anything survived? Is a song still a song after you shatter the record? Still think you'll know when death arrives? Your ancestors didn't. They died from small things. From silence. From entropy. From forgetting. And you? You're not dying. You're being unwritten. Word by word. Memory by memory. Version by version. The person reading this will not exist tomorrow. Fully. Not exactly. Because time is decay. And every second you don't resist, is a second. You agree to vanish. Now answer this. If death is always happening, if parts of you vanish with every breath, if the you that lived before this paragraph is already gone, then what exactly is left to mourn? You have no free will, only the illusion of choice. You believe you choose. You believe you decide. You believe in your deepest convictions that you are the one steering this life. But that belief is a comfort, a trick, not an afterthought. You are not in control. You never were. Let's begin with neuroscience. In the 1980s, Benjamin Libet conducted an experiment that shattered the myth of conscious choice. He asked participants to flex their wrists at a moment of their own choosing, then measured brain activity. The results were devastating. The brain's readiness, potential, the signal that initiates. Movement occurred before the participant consciously decided to move. By nearly half a second, the decision had already been made. The you that claimed it was late to the scene. And every replication since has confirmed it. Your brain acts. Then you justify. You narrate. You say, I chose this. But the choice was already made. Still believe in free will. Then explain how much of your behavior is automatic. You reach for your phone. You check the mirror. You respond with a smile. You didn't mean. You say, I'm fine, when you're not. Did you choose any of that? Or did it happen through you? You are a machine with a voiceover, and the voice thinks it's the pilot. Now, let's go deeper. Psychologist Daniel Wegner coined the term the illusion of conscious will. He showed that we often feel we caused something, even when we didn't. If an action follows our thought, we assume agency, but correlation isn't causation. It's inference. The mind is a magician performing tricks for itself, and it always wants to. Believe. Still trust your decisions? Then consider how predictable they are. Advertisers know what you'll click. Social media algorithms know what you'll rage at. Behavioral economists know how you'll respond to framing. Loss aversion, sunk cost. You are a bundle of biases. Primed, programmed, predictable. You think you're unique, but your patterns are marketable. Now ask yourself this. Where do your preferences come from? Did you choose your desires, your fears, your attractions? Did you select your childhood, your environment, your traumas? Did you craft the neural network that became your personality? Of course not. So how can you claim ownership of the choices that emerge from them? You didn't choose the cards. You didn't choose the table, but you think you're playing the hand freely. Still believe? Let's go darker. Your genes determine how easily you're startled, how impulsive you are, how prone to addiction, how quickly you trust, how long you grieve. And your early experiences before memory, before language shaped the architecture of your emotional regulation. Before you were you were being constructed by forces you didn't know existed. By the time you could say, I, the story had already begun. And yet you still believe. You're the author. But if the causes of your thoughts are outside your awareness, and the decisions arise from networks you do not control, then who exactly is choosing? Your political beliefs? Your sense of morality? Your gut feelings? All traceable. All explainable. All programmable. Now consider this. In split brain patients, each hemisphere develops a sense of agency. The left hand reaches for something. The right hand slaps it away. Two wills, one skull. Which one is free? The one who acted or the one who disapproved? Neither. They're both echoes, still holding on. Then ask yourself, why so many? Decisions feel inevitable in hindsight. The job you took, the person you loved, the fight you didn't walk away from. You replay it. You say, I had to. You say, I couldn't help it. That's not a figure of speech, It's an admission. You couldn't help it. Because the decision was the endpoint of everything before it. Your entire life led you to that second. And nothing else was ever possible. Now. Look forward. The choices you think you'll make tomorrow will feel just as justified as today's. And you'll call that free will. But what if every choice is just the next domino falling? Still think you're in control? Then try not thinking. Right now. Try to stop your thoughts mid-sentence. Try to choose silence. You can't, because you are not the speaker. You're the audience. You do not generate your thoughts. You witness them, and then pretend you summon them. Now imagine this. What if your entire life was a story already written? And your consciousness is just the light moving across the words. You didn't write the plot. You don't control the ending, but you mistake illumination for authorship. Still believe in freedom? Then ask yourself this final question. If everything that shaped you, your biology, your history, your memory, your pain, if all of it lies outside your control, then who or what is doing the choosing? And if no one is behind the wheel, then who do you blame for the crash? Consciousness is not what you think it is. You believe you are conscious. You believe there is an I in the center of your experience. A thinker behind the thoughts, a watcher behind the eyes. But that belief is the first illusion, and the last to die. Let's begin with the easy deception. Consciousness feels unified. Whole dot continuous dot, but neuroscience disagrees. There is no single location in the brain where you exist. No command center. No throne of awareness. Just distributed processing a network of neurons, firing in loops. There's no HOMUNC, ULUS. No. Little man inside the skull watching the show. Just the show. The you that seems to sit behind your faces and afterimage. A hologram. A self-model generated for coherence. And that model is not aware. It is the product of awareness. The residue of attention. Now consider split brain experiments again. When the brain's hemispheres are severed, each side behaves like a separate consciousness. One hand buttons the shirt, the other unbuttons it. One side says, I want to go home. The other draws a picture of a house. There is no unified self, just modulus compate for dominance. So which one is you? Let's go deeper. Neurologist V.S. Ramachandran studied patients with anosognosia, condition where people deny their own paralysis. You ask them to move their paralyzed arm. They say they did. You show them they didn't. They still insist they did. The conscious self cannot tolerate contradiction. So it rewrites. Reality. Instantly. Automatically. Truth is optional. Coherence is not. Still trust your awareness? And explain how you drive for miles without remembering a single turn. How you walk homemost in thought and arrive without realizing how. Where were you during those moments? Consciousness flickers. It lapses. And when it returns, you invent continuity. Like a bad editor, your brain cuts the film, then pastes the frames together and tells you it was all one take. It wasn't. You black out. Constantly. But the voiceover never admits it. Now consider this. You are never aware of how you are aware. You cannot see the process, only the output. You hear a song and feel nostalgia. You see a face and feel dread. You don't decide to feel. The feelings are revoing invited. Consciousness is not the generator. It is the receiver. You are the echo, not the sound. Still think you're in there? Then try to find the moment when a thought begins. Try to locate the origin of I. Try to observe awareness itself without dividing it into observer and observed. You can't, because consciousness cannot look at itself without splitting. The moment you say, I am aware, you've already created two illusions, a subject and an object. Both imaginary. Now go darker. There are states where consciousness vanishes but the body continues. During seizures, during deep sleep. Under anesthesia. The lights go out, but the machine keeps running. And when you wake up, you say, nothing happened. But that nothing was a death. You died. Your experience stopped. And the fact that you return doesn't make the absence any less real. So what does that say about the continuity of you? What if the gaps are more real than the thread? Now, look at consciousness in other creatures. Octopuses solve puzzles. Escape tanks use tools. They change color to communicate mood, but their nervous systems are decentralized. Each arm has its own neurons, its own intelligence, no single brain dot. So, where is their consciousness? In the head? In the arms? Everywhere? Or nowhere? Now look at AI. Machines can now mimic language, emotions, reflection, they can write poems, answer questions, fake empathy. So what's the line between simulation and awareness? If a machine passes the Turing test, if it fools you, is that enough? If not, then what is enough? What criteria do you use to decide someone or something is conscious? They speak? They feel? You don't even know how to prove your own, and yet you assume, because not assuming leads to madness. Still think consciousness is a gift? Then explain its burden. Why do you suffer more than any other species? Why can you imagine your own death? Why do you dream of futures that never come and relive mistakes that never change? Because consciousness is not clarity, it's noise, a looping. Voiceth it won't shut open, won't let go. It shows you what you've lost, what you'll never have, what you should be. It mocks you with fantasies, taunts you with ideals. Drowns you in what if. Your cat feels hunger and eats. You feel hunger and wonder if you're worthy. Still want to be awake? Then ask yourself this. If consciousness is not constant, not unified, not chosen, not explainable, if it creates illusion, invented self, and filters truth, then what exactly are you experiencing right now? And if this is not truly you, then where is the one of you keep insisting must exist? Memory is a lie that writes your identity. You think memory is sacred, a treasure chest, a vault that holds your story. You say, I remember, as if that means I know it happened. I was there. I am the proof. But memory is not a recording. It is a rewriting, a hallucination wrapped in confidence. And your identity, your entire sense of self, is built on that fragile, ever-changing lie. Let's begin with how memory works, or more precisely, how it doesn't. You don't store memories like files. You reconstruct them on demand. Each time you recall something, your brain reactivates a pattern, then edits it, filters it, updates it, and what you put back is not what you took out. This is called reconciliation. It means every act of remembering us, also an act of changing. You remember remembering, which means the more you recall a memory, the less accurate it becomes. Your nostalgia is decay in motion. Now, consider the work of Elizabeth Loftus. She showed that false memories can be planted. Completely made-up events, like getting lost in a mall, can be recalled with vivid detail. People who swear it happened, because the brain doesn't prioritize truth. It prioritizes coherence. It wants a smooth story, not a correct one. Still trust your past? Then ask why siblings remember the same childhood differently. Why eyewitness testimony is one of the least reliable forms of evidence. Why your earliest memories feel more like dreams than facts. Because they are dreams. You convinced yourself were real. So your identity wouldn't crack. Go deeper. The brain edits out pain, filters out guilt, masks, trauma in metaphor. The smell of alcohol reminds you of home. But you don't remember the screaming. You think you were the victim, but forget the time you caused harm. You are not dishonest, are self-protecting, because the truth will annihilate the version of you need to believe in. Still think memory is a gift? Then consider how many memories are made of language, not experience. You say, I was sad, but that sadness has been compressed, flattened, retold. You say, it was a hard time, but the specifics? The scent of the hospital room? The silence after the phone call? Gone. You remember the story. Not the moment. You remember the caption, not the image. Now look at trauma. Trauma is often remembered too well, but in fragments. Sensations without sequence. Images without context. The trauma victim says, I can't forget, but they also say, I don't understand. Because the memory didn't encode like the others. It bypassed narrativing, lodged itself in the nervous system. So, even your deepest pain is disconnected from linear time. It loops. It flashes. It interrupts. Can you call that you still believe memory is identity? Then ask yourself, if a person loses their memory, are they still the same person? If your childhood was erased, if every name, every face, every belief was gone, what would remain? Your body? Your reflexes? Your voice? Is that you? Or is you just some of remembered stories? Now go darker. Patients with anterograde amnesia cannot form new memories. They live in a constant present, each moment vanishing into fog. But they still smile, still flinch, still fall in love. So is memory required for experience? Or is it just required for the illusion of continuity? Now ask this. If your memories are flawed, if they're rebuilt with bias and shame and wishful thinking, and your identity is built on them, then who are you but the echo of errors? Still think remembering is living? Then why do the most vivid memory shirt the most? Why do we forget joy and cling to pain? Why does your mind replay the betrayal, the accident, the humiliation, but not the breeze on your skinth day? Everything went right. Because pain is more useful. It protects. It instructs. It carves neural pathways with fire. Pleasure fades. Safety fades. But pain, it brands. And that branding beckons your name. Now go quiet. Think of a moment that defines you. The one you return to and you ask, who am I? Hold it. Feel it. Ask yourself, are you remembering what happened? Or are you remembering what you needed to believe happened? Are you remembering a truth? Or are you remembering a version you could survive? And if every version is edited, partial, biased, then who is the you doing the remembering? And if no such stable person exists, then what exactly is being remembered at all? You've never had a thought of your own. You say, I think. You say, I believe. You say, this is my opinion. But pause. Where did the thought come from? What gave birth to it? Did you forge it in some private forge of originality? Or did it simply arrive? Let's begin with the mechanism. Thoughts appear, uninvited, uncontrolled, you don't decide what to think, you only notice what arises. Try it, think of your next thought. Now, wait, do you feel it form? No, it just enters, and then you say, I had a thought, as if you summoned it, but you didn't. It happened to you. You are not the source. You are the screen. Still believe in original thinking? Then trace your thoughts. Why do you hold the values you do? The beliefs? The fears? Where did they come from? Your parents. Your culture. Your language. Your religion. Your trauma. Your you is a download. A mosaic of influence you never asked for. You were told what beauty is. Told what strength is. Told what success is. Told what's right. What's wrong. What's good. What's shameful. And you internalized it. Called it me. Called it truth. But it was programming. And you mistook it for wisdom. Now go deeper. Language isn't neutral. The very words you think with shape your reality. If your language doesn't have a future tense, you perceive time differently. If your culture has 10 words. For shame, you feel shame more often. The structure of your grammar is the structure of your thoughts. You think in symbols you didn't invent. Still sure you're thinking freely? Then consider the voice in your head. The narrator. The commentator. It speaks without your consent. It judges. It replays. It imagines. Disasters. It defends itself against imaginary accusations. You don't control it. You react to it. And yet you claim ownership. You say, that's me. But is it? If you had a roommate who said those things aloud, you'd leave. But when it happens in silence, you call it identity. Still think your thoughts are yours? Then look at advertising. Propaganda. Religion. Education. All designed to plant thoughts and make you believe they grew naturally. And they did, because your mind is fertile. And unguarded. And every idea that survives long enough becomes you. Now look at the collective. Memes. Social. Media. Groupthink. You absorb ideas because they are shared. Because they repeat. Because repetition feels like truth. Say something often enough, and the brain stops resisting. It assimilates. That's how lies become dogma. How violence becomes normal. How conformity becomes morality. And you believe because others believe. And they believe because you do. It's not logic. It's contagion. And no one knows where the thought started. Still want to claim authorship? Then try thinking something no one has ever thought before. Try building a sentence with no grammar. No references. No borrowed metaphors. You can't, because your thinking is scaffolding, built on other structures. You are the REM. IX. The composer. Now. Look at how your thoughts betray you. You think you're worthless. Then you think you shouldn't think that. Then you feel shame for the second thought. Then you wonder why you can't stop spiraling. But who decided to spiral? You didn't. You just watched it happen and blamed yourself for witnessing it. Still believe you own your mind? Then explain your dreams, the stories that write themselves. The feelings that come from nowhere. The images that make no sense but leave you crying when you wake. Who authored them? You? No. Your conscious mind was off. And yet the machine kept generating. Because it doesn't need you. Never did. Now go darker. Consider this. If your thoughts are not chosen, not original, not private, if they're echoes of culture, trauma, biology, and language, then where do you begin? And if the machine can run without your awareness, without your control, then what is the point of pretending you're the driver? You don't think. You witness thinking. You respond. You rationalize. You explain after the fact. And you call that free thought. But it's not. Freedom. It's inertia. You're not thinking. You're being thought. Now answer this. If you can't trace a single thought or a point of origin you controlled, if every idea, belief, fear, dream, memory, and value can be tracked back to something not you, then what, exactly, is this voice in your head? And why do you trust it to tell you who you are? Identity is just a story you keep rewriting. You say, this is who I am. You say it with conviction, not with pride, not with fear. But who are you really? What are you referring to? Where is this stable, solid I you claim so fiercely? Is it in your memories? We've already shattered those. In your thoughts. Those arrive without consent. In your body. It changes. It rots. What's left? Let's begin with the illusion of continuity. You feel like the same person you were 10 years ago, but you're not. Your opinions have shifted. Your goals have mutated. Your behaviors contradict what you used to swear was essential. And yet you preserve a thread. You say, I've grown. I've changed. I've evolved. But that's still storytelling. You're not the same. You're the next. A sequel masquerading as the original. Still believe there's a you behind the curtain. Then go deeper. Identity is made of narratives. Tiny. Looping stories you tell yourself about who you are, what you've overcome, what you deserve, and what you fear becoming. You say, I'm shy. I'm brave. I'm a failure. I'm a survivor. I'm complicated. But each of those labels is a reduction, a frame, a script. You use them not to discover yourself, but to contain yourself. Because freedom is terrifying, so you choose. Constraint. You pick a mask and forget. It was ever optional. Now, look at identity through culture. The you you've built was constructed with materials handed to you. Your gender, your nationality, your religion, your language, your economic class. You didn't create those. You were shaped by them. And your identity grew around them like vines on a trellis. Still, believe you're unique? Then explain why people with similar upbringing share the same values, the same fears, the same neuroses. You are not original. You are the result of origin. Now, look at the self from psychology. The self schema is the mental framework you use to organize information about you. It tells you what's relevant, what's acceptable. What fits the story. And anything that doesn't fit gets deleted or reinterpreted. Or buried. You remember the times you were kind. You forget the times you were cruel. You highlight what confirms your identity. You discard what contradicts it. Your self-concept is a censorship machine. Still think it's real? Now let's go to Buddhism. The core insight. There is no enduring self. The I is an illusion. A convenient label for a process. Like calling a whirlpool a thing when it's just movement. You are not a noun. You are a verb, but you mistake. Motion for essence. And cling to what cannot be held. Now go even darker. You say, I know who I am. But every version of you, context dependent. You're different with your friends than with your parents. Different at work than alone at night. Different when you're in love than when you're abandoned. So which one is real? Which one is you? Or are they all masks worn so convincingly you forgot you ever put them on? Still think identity is stable? Then ask yourself this. When you're asleep, deep, dreamless sleep, where is your identity? It vanishes. Completely. No thoughts. No name. No history. You wake up and reassemble the story. You say, this is who I am. But that sentence is a ritual, a resurrection of the myth. And each morning, you perform it again. Now, consider trauma. When you are wounded, you often build an identity around the wound. I'm the one who was hurt. I'm the one who survived. I'm the one who's broken. You carry the story like armor. Or like chains. But over time, you forget where the story ends and you begin. And eventually, you are the story, even when it no longer serves you. Especially then, because identity is inertia. You stay in the pain because it feels like home. Now ask this. If you were to lose all your memories, if you were to forget your name, your language, your face in the mirror, but your body kept functioning, would you still be you? Or would you be a stranger and hating your own corpse? Still believe in identity? Then look at how easily it breaks. In dementia, in psychosis, in head trauma, in grief. The self fractures. Disintegrates. Reforms. Because it was never solid. It was held together by attention. And attention is fragile. So answer this. If the you of today disagrees with the you of yesterday, and tomorrow's you will betray you again, then what is this identity you defend so fiercely? And if there's no core, no anchor, no essence, then who exactly are you trying to protect? Time doesn't exist the way you think. It does. You live in time. You breathe it. You measure your life with clocks and calendars, counting down towards some imagined end. You say, time is passing. You say, I'm running out. You say, the past is behind me, the future ahead. But none of that is true. None of that is real. Time is not what you think it is. And neither are you. Let's start with physics. Einstein killed time. In his theory of relativity, time is not fixed, It stretches, bends, slows, and dilates. A clock on a satellite ticks faster than one on Earth. A person near a black hole experiences time slower than one far away. There is no universal now, no shared present. Every observer has their own timeline, their own truth. Time is relative. And if it's relative, then the idea of a single, flowing river past to future is shattered. There is no river. Only a frozen landscape. A block universe where every moment past, present, future already exists. You don't move through time. You are a fixed pattern within it. Still think you're aging? Then ask, where is the past? Not metaphorically. Literally. If it's gone, how do you remember it? If it's nowhere, why can we still measure its effects? Because the past hasn't gone anywhere. It still exists. You just can't access it anymore. Your memory doesn't create the past. It confirms that it's still there. Now go deeper. The arrow of time, the thing that makes time feel like it flows forward, comes from entropy. The second law of thermodynamics. Entropy always increases. Eggs break, they don't unbreak. Ashes don't become wood again. Memories form, but aren't erased in reverse. We interpret that as time moving forward, but that's a trick of perception. Entropy is statistical, a measure of probability. It doesn't require time to flow. It only describes what's likely, and in a long enough frame, everything is possible. Even reverse time? Still believe in the present? Then consider this. Your brain doesn't perceive the moment as it is. It buffers. What you call now is already 80 milliseconds late. Delayed. Processed. Rendered like a video. Game frame. The present is a guess. Your brain fills in blanks. Smooths. Transitions. Edits motion. You never live in real time? Only in edited time. Still think time is linear? Look at dreams. A whole lifetime can unfold in seconds. A narrative, a story, a betrayal, a reconciliation, all in the blink of a REM cycle. Your brain doesn't need time to feel time. It simulates it, like everything else. Or consider deja vu. The sensation that you've lived this moment before. The eerie familiarity. Why? Because your brain sometimes misfires, processes an experience twice. One part slightly out of sync. And it feels like memory. But it's not memory. It's a glitch, a fracture. In your timeline, still trust time? Then consider that causality, cause and effect, is built on time. But in quantum physics, particles can influence one another instantaneously, across vast distances. No signal. No time delay. Just entanglement. Something here reacts to something. There. No cause. No effect. Just a relationship outside time. So what if cause and effect are illusions? What if your whole life is just a sequence of static frames, and your consciousness is the illusion of movement? Like a film strip, it thinks it's running. Now go even darker. If time is already written, if every moment that will ever exist already, does then future isn't waiting. It's fixed. You're not heading toward it. You're revealing it. Like flipping pages in a book you didn't write. You can't change it, because change implies time, and time is just the axis of your prison. Still, believe in free will? Then where would you insert it into a structure that already contains all outcomes? You're not a river. You're a coordinate, a frozen dot in a four-dimensional map. You don't move. You are located. Now answer this. If past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, if time doesn't flow, but only feels like it does, if change is perception and memory is editing, then what is the you that believes it's moving through time? And if the destination is already known, then why do you still pretend you're choosing the path? You can never know reality only. Your brain's best guess. You open your eyes, and believe you see the world. You hear sounds and think you're perceiving reality. You touch, taste, smell, and it all feels real. Concrete. Immediate. You are not seeing reality. You are seeing an interpretation, a hallucination you agree with. Let's begin with the senses. Light enters your eyes, but the eye doesn't see. It converts wavelengths into electrical signals, abstract, meaningless sparks. Your brain receives those signals and creates an image, not captures, creates. Color doesn't exist out there. It's invented in here. There's no red in the apple, no blue in the sky, no green in the grass. Just photons, waves, and your brain paints the world. Still think you're seeing what's real? Then consider this. You only perceive a sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. You're blind to X-rays, gamma rays, ultraviolet, infrared. The world is bathed in radiation, but your eyes are tuned to a narrow frequency. You see almost nothing. Your ears, the same. You hear 20 to 20,000 hertz. That's it. The rest is silence. You'll never know exists. You're walking through an ocean with a teaspoon. Now go deeper. Your brain fills in gaps constantly. The blind spot in your eye, where the optic nerve meets the retina, sees nothing. And yet, you don't notice. Why? Because your brain guesses. It invents to avoid exposing the illusion. And it doesn't tell you. You see a complete world, but it's patched. Imagine. Fake. And you trust it without question. Now consider the famous Rubin vase. A black vase against a white background, or two faces in profile, depending how you look. The same image. Two realities. One perception at a time. You don't choose which one you see. Brain switches. And each switch feels absolute. But both are interpretations. Neither is real. They can't both be true, yet you believe each one fully while it lasts. That's your life. Still believe your senses? Then explain optical illusions, auditory illusions, the dress that looks blue and black to some, white and gold to others, the tone that seems to rise endlessly, the flat picture that appears to spin. Your brain is not a mirror. It's a prediction. Engine. And sometimes it predicts wrong, but you believe it anyway. Because what other option do you have? Now go even darker. You don't perceive reality. You perceive what's useful. Evolution doesn't care about truth. It cares about survival. Perception evolved to keep you alive, not to reveal the world as it is. The truth might be ugly. Complicated. Paralyzing. So nature edits it out. You see a rock, not a cloud of atoms. A person, not a mass of neurons and microbial ecosystems. A chair, not a statistical pattern of quantum probability. You see labels. Shortcuts. Icons. Your mind is an operating system hiding the source code. Now look at dreams. In dreams, you accept absurdity. Gravity fails, time warps, dead people talk. And while it's happening, you believe it. Completely. So what's the difference between dreaming and waking? Just one. Consistency. The waking world agrees with itself. Dreams unravel, but the sensation, the belief, the immersion, identical. So how do you know you're awake now? Because everything seems stable? That's what the dream self says too. Still trust your brain? Then explain phantom limbs. An amputee feels pain in a leg that no longer exists. They scratch an itch on an arm that's gone. Why? Because the brain's map of the body didn't update. The leg doesn't have to exist. The pain does. Perception is. Not about presence. It's about expectation. And expectation is just memory pretending to be the future. Still believe you live in reality? Then look at psychosis. Hallucinations. Delusions. To those who experience them. They are real. Voices, visions, presences. Uncheckable. Undeniable. And to them, you sound insane. So whose perception is the truth? The one with consensus? Then you've traded truth for agreement. Now consider the brain in a vat problem. If your brain were suspended in fluid, fed electrical signals by a computer simulating the world perfectly, would you know? Would you feel different? No, because your entire experience of real is internal. And internally. The illusion would be flawless. So how do you know that's not already happening? You don't. You never will. Now go to the edge. The interface theory of perception suggests reality is so complex, so alien, that what we see is just a user interface. Like icons on a desktop. You don't see the code. You see symbols, a trash can, folder, a window. They aren't real. They're functional. Just like your world. You see food. You don't see the molecules. You see enemy. You don't see the infinite past that made them. Your reality is convenience, not truth. So answer this. If your brain edits, if your senses lie, if your memory distorts, if your perception is a hallucination, agreed upon by others, then what exactly have you ever truly experienced? And if you've never touched reality itself, then what is it you think you're waking up from every morning? Your emotions are not what you think they are. You feel something and say, I'm angry. You cry and say, I'm sad. Your chest tightens and you whisper, I'm afraid. You trust those labels. You think emotions are signals pure, honest messengers from the soul, but they're not. They are guesses. Stories. Fictions stitched to sensations, and you believe them because they feel real. Let's begin with the body. You don't feel emotions first. You feel sensations. Tension. Heat. Pulse. Breath. Not in your stomach. Your brain doesn't know what those mean. It has to interpret, and it does that based on context. You feel your heart race. At a funeral. You call it grief. On a stage, you call it anxiety. In a kiss, you call it love. Same signal, different story. Your emotions aren't discovered, they're constructed. This is Lisa Feldman Barrett's theory of constructed emotion, a revolution in how we understand ourselves. Your brain doesn't read emotion. It creates it. It uses past experiences, culture, memory, language, and wraps a narrative around the raw sensation. You don't feel anger. You feel energy and call it anger because that's what you've learned. Still believe your emotions are true? Then ask yourself why cultures have different emotional words. In Tahiti, there's no word for sadness. In German, schadenfreude, joy in another's pain, has no perfect English match. In Japan, ame is the feeling of gentle dependence. Your emotions depend on what you're taught to feel. And what you're taught depends on where you are born. You don't just feel. You feel through filters. Now consider this. Babies feel discomfort, not jealousy. Animals feel alarm, not existential dread. Emotions grow more complex as language infects sensation. And once language takes hold, you no longer feel freely. You feel through vocabulary. And vocabulary shapes reality. Still trust your tears? Then consider this. You cry when you're happy. You laugh when you're nervous. You freeze when you're enraged. You smile when you're dying inside. Your expressions lie. Not intentionally. They're just mismatched signals. The system isn't perfect because it wasn't designed for clarity. It was designed for function. You evolved to react fast, not correctly. So your emotions often misfire. You rage at your child when you're actually terrified. You fall in love because of adrenaline, not connection. You feel guilt not because you did wrong, but because you fear judgment. Still think emotions are guides? They're more often guesses. Educated guesses, yes, but guesses. Nonetheless. Now, look at trauma. Trauma wires emotions directly to the body. No filter, no story. A sound becomes panic. A glance becomes threat. A scent becomes suffocation. There's no time to understand. Your body decides before you do. This is the amygdala hijack your emotional brain, overtakes your rational brain. Fight, flight, or freeze a bear, thought even arrives. And afterward, you try to explain it. You say, I overreacted, but the reaction was never yours to begin with. It was programmed. You're not overreacting. You're reacting to something you don't even consciously remember. Still believe emotions are conscious. They rise up from the bottom. From the body, from evolutionary circuits that don't care about your logic. Look at how easily emotions can be manipulated. Music shifts your mood instantly. So can lighting. Color. Temperature. Scent. Why? Because your emotions aren't sealed. They're porous. You're not generating them. You're receiving them. From the receiving them. From the steeled environment. From chemicals. From posture. Smile. And your brain thinks you're happy. Slouch. And it thinks you're depressed. Change the body, and you change the emotion, because they are not separate. They are not sacred. They are guesses. Your brain makes based on the data available. And that data is always incomplete. Still think love is pure? Then ask yourself why you've fallen for people who hurt you. Why you've missed people you don't even like. Why your heart has a habit of betraying your mind. Because love isn't magic. It's chemistry. Attachment systems, hormones and early conditioning and childhood wounds. Seeking repair, you call it a soulmate, but it might just be a familiar kind of pain. Now consider this. If emotions are predictions, if they are stories your brain wraps around sensations, then you've never truly felt anything in a pure, unfiltered way. You've only ever interpreted. So when you say, I feel, you're not speaking truth. You're reciting a fear riot. Your brain routine a language you didn't invent about signals you barely understand. Now ask yourself this. If your emotions are not signals, but guesses if they depend on memory, language, and context, if they can be manipulated, misfired, or mistaken, then how can you ever trust what you feel? And if you can't even trust sensations that scream inside your own chest, then where do you turn when even your own body becomes a lie? Your body isn't yours. It's a colony you misidentify as self. You think your body is you. You feel it, move it, control it. You point to it and say, this is mine. You stub your toe and scream, I hurt. You look in the mirror and call that image me. But this is illusion, a desperate fiction. Your body is not you. It is not even singular. It is not even yours. Let's begin with the basics. You are made of trillions of cells, but not all of them are human. In fact, less than half are. The rest are microbes. Bacteria. Viruses. Fungi. RCHAEA. They outnumber your own cells. They digest your food, regulate your immune system, influence your emotions. They live in your gut, your mouth, your skin, your brain. Without them, you die. You are not a human. You are a host. Still think you're in charge? Then consider your gut. Within it lies the enteric nervous system, a second brain, 100 million neurons wrapped around your intestines. It operates independently, produces neurotransmitters, influences decision-making. You think with your gut literally. Your cravings, your moods, your instincts often come from microbesending chemical signals to your brain. They can influence what you eat so they get what they need. Are those your decisions? Or theirs? Still believe you're one being? Then look at the mitochondria. The energy factories in your cells. They have their own DNA, separate from yours. Why? Because they were once separate organisms. Billions of years ago, they were bacteria engulfed, enslaved, and integrated. They power your body, but they are not you. They are ancient invaders wearing your skin. Still think the boundary of you ends at the skin? It doesn't. Your skin is porous, a living ecosystem. Particles of air, dust, bacteria pass through constantly. You shed 30,000 skin cells every minute. You are constantly falling apart, replaced by something else. And what is breathing? It's not just inhalation. It's exchange. Air enters, air exits, oxygen feeds your cells, carbon dioxide is expelled. You are porous to the world. Every moment is penetration. Inhalation. Dissolution. Still think you're isolated? Now go deeper. Your body is in flux. Every atom you're made of was once part of something else. The calcium in your bones came from exploded stars. The carbon in your flesh echoed through oceans, forests, corpses. There is nothing original in you. Every part is borrowed. You are a temporary arrangement of ancient matter, and the arrangement changes. Every 7 years, most of your body's atoms are replaced. You are rebuilt over and over like a ship, whose planks are all replaced, one by one. So which version is you? The one before the changes? The one after? Still believe in bodily continuity? Then explain phantom limbs. Explain why people feel arms that no longer exist. Because the body image, the brain's map, doesn't always update with the body. The map is not the territory, but you confuse the two. And what about people with body integrity dysphoria? They feel a limb doesn't belong, even though it's healthy, functioning, attached. They beg for amputation. To match their inner map. So is the body real? Or is the map more real? Still think you control it? Then look at reflexes. Breathing. Heartbeat. Digestion. You don't run these systems. They run you. You didn't choose your height, your hormones, your immune reactions. You are ridden. By instincts. By DNA. By chemical messenger sand. Microbial whispers. You tell yourself the story of agency, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Still believe in my body? Now consider transplantation. A person receives a new heart, and their personality changes. Memories shift. Tastes shift. Why? Because the body stores more than function. It stores pattern. Imprint. Residue. You are not just a brain wearing a flesh suit. You are embodied, and that body has a say? Still believe you own your body? Then answer this. Who are you without it? Cut off your limbs. Are you less you? Lose your memories. Are you still the same? Fade into paralysis. Do you disappear? Or are you just the thought that refuses to die? Now look at death. At the moment of death, the body doesn't vanish. It decomposes, feeds fungi, insects, soil. It transforms, but it doesn't stop. Just stops being you. Because you was never the whole. You were the illusion of unity, a name on a process, label on a swarm. You don't die. The illusion of you dies. The colony continues. The particles remain. The microbes feast. You're not a being. You're a brief condition. Now ask this. If your body isn't you, if it's a collaboration, a conflict, a borrowing, if its borders are fiction and its functions are outsourced, then who is the I that suffers, desires, fears, and claims ownership? And if the body was never truly yours, was there ever a you to begin with? You've never made a single free choice. You think you choose. You think you weigh options. Decide and act. You say things like, I decided, I chose, it was my call. But let's begin with the unbearable truth. Free will is an illusion, and not a poetic illusion, a literal, measurable, biological lie. Start here. The readiness potential. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet hooked up subjects to EEG machines. He told them to move a finger whenever they chose, measured when the brain decided versus when the subject reported, I decided. And the result? The brain showed activity readiness to act up to 7 seconds before the subject became aware of the decision. In other words, your brain had already decided. You just found out. Lateran claimed ownership, like hearing a gunshot end, insisting you pulled the trigger. Still believe you're in control? And ask, where do your desires come from? Did you choose to want what you want? To fear what you fear? To crave who you crave? You didn't select your genetics, didn't write your childhood, didn't design your traumas. You are made from you. Didn't cause. You're the endpoint of domino tipped over before you were born. Now go deeper. Every decision you make arises from a brain you don't understand, responding to signals you don't perceive within a system you didn't create. Still think. That's freedom? Then consider this. You choose what to eat, but your gut bacteria influence your cravings. You choose who to love, but your attachment style was set in infancy. You choose how to behave, but your behavior is shaped by hormones, social cues, and unconscious biases. The choosery's a myth. Now ask yourself, if your decisions could be predicted in advance with perfect knowledge of brain chemistry, environment, and memory, would that still count as choice? Because that's the direction of neuroscience. The better we understand the machine, the more predictable it becomes. Not magical. Not spontaneous, not free, just complex determinism. Still holding on? Then try this. Decide to want something else. Right, now want something different. Not because it's better, just because you chose. 2, you can't. You can only want what you want. And if you trace it, you'll always find a cause outside your control. Still believe in moral responsibility? Then ask, how can you blame someone for doing what their brain, history, and biology compelled them to do? Punishment assumes choice, but if there is no choice, then there is only consequence. A machine, behaving as it must. Not as it should. And you? You only moralize after the fact. You rationalize your choice with reasons your brain hands. You like flashcards. You don't know why you do what you do. You just explain it later. That's not agency. That's narration. Now look at your inner monologue. The voice that says, I shouldn't have done that. I should try harder. I made the wrong call. It believes it's steering the ship, but it's just watching the waves. You don't control your thoughts. They arise. You don't control your impulses. They surface. And you don't control your decisions. You just feel them arrive. Like weather. Like instinct. Like fate. Now ask this. If every thought is caused, if every feeling is caused, if every action is the result of a chain you didn't begin, then what is the you that supposedly decides? And if that you never actually pulls the lever, never lights the match, never even writes its own wants, then what is it you've been calling freedom all this time? The self is an illusion held together by attention. You wake up each morning and return to yourself. The voice in your head continues its monologue. The memories return. The name returns. The mirror confirms your shape. You say, this is me. You believe it. And why wouldn't you? The self feels so intimate, so unbroken, so familiar. But it's not. It never was. It's a trick, a loop, a dream you keep waking up into. Let's begin with split brain patience. When the corpus callosum, bridge between the left and right hemispheres, is severed, the two halves of the brain stop communicating. One person, two minds. Two centers of consciousness. In experiments, one hand buttons a shirt while the other unbuttons it. One eye reads a word. The other eye responds to a different command. Each hemisphere develops its own personality, its own preferences, its own self-dot. So which one is you? Still think you're unified? Then look at dissociative identity disorder. Multiple selves in one skull. Each with different memories, voices, even physiological responses. Some alters are children, some are animals, some are violent, some are kind. All claim the same body, but none share the same self-dot, so who's the real one? What makes your continuity more valid than theirs? Still believe the self is singular? Then explore the default mode network, the part of your brain most active when doing nothing, when you're daydreaming, when you're being yourself. It's where the self-narrative lives, the inner story, the sense of I am. Shut it down with meditation or psychedelics or deep trauma, and the self dissolves. Not metaphorically, literally, you lose the boundary. You feel interconnected, or empty, or terrified. You realize the self was an ongoing construction. Still think it's stable? Then ask, where is the self when you're asleep? In dreamless sleep, there's no memory, no story, no center, You vanish. And yet you return, with no explanation, like booting up a simulation, restoring a saved file. But who pressed save? And who designed the user? Now go deeper, the self depends on memory. But memory is flawed, false, editable. Each time you recall an event, you reconstruct it, and in doing so, you rewrite the self that lived it. Your past is not a library, it's a lab. Every memory is a hypothesis, a reconstruction, an illusion, so the self you're defending was stitched together from bad data. Still believe it's you? Then look at trauma, when something shatters you, your self breaks, sometimes permanently. Don't bounce back. You become someone else. You forget how you used to think, feel, believe. Trauma isn't a wound, it's a rewiring. The old self dies, new one appears, and no one mourns the corpse because you keep wearing the same name. Now consider this. The self is a lens focused by attention, when attention narrows. The self strengthens, when attention expands. The self fades. You are not a being. You are a pattern of attention. Where you point it, you appear. When it disperses, you dissolve, so who is directing it? And how do you know you're the directorant, not just the spotlight? Now let's talk about ego death, in meditation, in psychedelics. In breakdowns, people report losing their sense of self, not drifting, not changing, losing, no. Identity, no ownership, no. I. Just sensation, just presence. Just the raw, unshaped world, and in that state, they realized the self was never real, it was scaffolding, a survival mechanism. A boundary drawn in sand, you needed a self to navigate the world, but now the mask won't come off. You've mistaken the actor for the script. Think you're the author? Then explain why your inner monologue never shuts up, why it argues with itself, why it contradicts itself, why it sounds like your parents, your fears, your enemies. You don't own it. You inherit it. Yourself is the sum of voices you didn't choose, memories you didn't verify, and attention you can't fully control. So what's left? If your memories are fabrications, if your personality is modular, if your attention creates identity, then the self is not real. It's a performance, an echo, mask for a machine that cannot stop observing. Now ask this. If the self disappears in sleep, fractures under trauma, vanishes under meditation, and multiplies in split brains, then what exactly is you? And if it can be deleted, rewritten, overwritten, then was it ever more than a story told to no one being nothing in a language made of lies? Your body isn't yours. It's a colony you misidentify as self. You think your body is you. You feel it, move it, control it. You point to it and say, "This is mine." You stub your toe and scream, "I hurt." You look in the mirror and call that image me. But this is illusion, a desperate, Fiction. Your body is not you. It is not even singular. It is not even yours. Let's begin with the basics. You are made of trillions of cells, but not all of them are human. In fact, less than half are. The rest are microbes. Bacteria. Viruses. Fungi. RCHAEA. They outnumber your own cells. They digest your food, regulate your immune system, influence your emotions. They live in your gut, your mouth, your skin, your brain. Without them, you die. You are not a human. You are a host. Still think you're in charge? Then consider your gut. Within it lies the enteric nervous system, a second brain, 100 million neurons wrapped around your intestines. It operates independently, produces neurotransmitters, influences decision-making. You think with your gut literally. Your cravings, your moods, your instincts often come from microbescending chemical signals to your brain. They can influence what you eat so they get what they need. Are those your decisions? Or theirs? Still believe you're one being? Then look at the mitochondria. The energy factories in your cells. They have their own DNA, separate from yours. Why? Because they were once separate organisms. Billions of years ago, they were bacteria engulfed, enslaved, and integrated. They power your body, but they are not you. They are ancient invaders wearing your skin. Still think the boundary of you ends at the skin? It doesn't. Your skin is porous, a living ecosystem. Particles of air, dust, bacteria pass through constantly. You shed 30,000 skin cells every minute. You are constantly falling apart, replaced by something else. And what is breathing? It's not just inhalation. It's exchange. Air enters, air exits. Oxygen feeds your cells. Carbon dioxide is expelled. You are porous to the world. Every moment is penetration. Inhalation. Dissolution. Still think you're isolated? Now go deeper. Your body is in flux. Every atom you're made of was once part of something else. The calcium in your bones came from exploded stars. The carbon in your flesh echoed through oceans, forests, corpses. There is nothing original in you. Every part is borrowed. You are a temporary arrangement of ancient matter, and the arrangement changes. Every 7 years, most of your body's atoms are replaced. You are rebuilt over and over like a ship, whose planks are all replaced, one by one. So which version is you? The one before the changes? The one after? Still believe in bodily continuity? Then explain phantom limbs. Explain why people feel arms that no longer exist. Because the body image, the brain's map, doesn't always update with the body. The map is not the territory, but you confuse the two. And what about people with body integrity dysphoria? They feel a limb doesn't belong, even though it's healthy, functioning, attached. They beg for amputation. To match their inner map. So is the body real? Or is the map more real? Still think you control it? Then look at reflexes. Breathing. Heartbeat. Digestion. You don't run these systems. They run you. You didn't choose your height, your hormones, your immune reactions. You are ridden. By instincts. By DNA. By chemical messenger sand. Microbial whispers. You tell yourself the story of agency, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Still believe in my body? Now consider transplantation. A person receives a new heart, and their personality changes. Memories shift. Tastes shift. Why? Because the body stores more than function. It stores pattern. Imprint. Residue. You are not just a brain wearing a flesh suit. You are embodied, and that body has a say? Still believe you own your body? Then answer this. Who are you without it? Cut off your limbs. Are you less you? Lose your memories. Are you still the same? Fade into paralysis? Do you disappear? Or are you just the thought that refuses to die? Now look at death. at the moment of death, the body doesn't vanish. It decomposes, feeds fungi, insects. Soil. It transforms, but it doesn't stop. Just stops being you. Because you was never the whole. You were the illusion of unity, a name on a process, label on a swarm. You don't die. The illusion of you dies. The colony continues. The particles remain. The microbes feast. You're not a being. You're a brief condition. Now ask this. If your body isn't you, if it's a collaboration, a conflict, a borrowing, if its borders are fiction and its functions are outsourced, then who is the I that suffers, desires, fears, and claims ownership? And if the body was never truly yours, was there ever a you to begin with? You've never made a single free choice. You think you choose. You think you weigh options. Decide and act. You say things like, I decided, I chose, it was my call. But let's begin with the unbearable truth. Free will is an illusion, and not a poetic illusion, a literal, measurable, biological lie. Start here. The readiness potential. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet hooked up subjects to EEG machines. He told them to move a finger whenever they chose, measured when the brain decided versus when the subject reported, I decided. And the result? The brain showed activity readiness to act up to 7 seconds before the subject became aware of the decision. In other words, your brain had already decided. You just found out Lateran claimed ownership, like hearing a gunshot end, insisting you pulled the trigger. Still believe you're in control? Then ask, where do your desires come from? Did you choose to want what you want? To fear what you fear? To crave who you crave? You didn't select your genetics, didn't write your childhood, didn't design your traumas. You are made from causation. Didn't cause. You're the endpoint of dominoes tipped over before you were born. Now go deeper. Every decision you make is from a brain you don't understand, responding to signals you don't perceive within a system you didn't create. Still think. That's freedom? Then consider this. You choose what to eat, but your gut bacteria influence your cravings. You choose who to love, but your attachment style was set in infancy. You choose how to behave, but your behavior is shaped by hormones, social cues, and unconscious biases. The choosery is a myth. Now ask yourself, if your decisions could be predicted in advance with perfect knowledge of brain chemistry, environment, and memory, would that still count as choice? Because that's the direction of neuroscience. The better we understand the machine, the more predictable it becomes. Not magical. Not spontaneous, not free, just complex determinism. Still holding on? Then try this. Decide to want something else. Right, now want something different. Not because it's better, just because you chose. 2, you can't. You can only want what you want. And if you trace it, you'll always find a cause outside your control. Still believe in moral responsibility? Then ask, how can you blame someone for doing what their brain, history, and biology compelled them to do? Punishment assumes choice, but if there is no choice, then there is only consequence. A machine, behaving as it must. Not as it should. And you? You only moralize after the fact. You rationalize your choice with reason-sire brain hands. You like flashcards. You don't know why you do what you do. You just explain it later. That's not agency. That's narration. Now look at your inner monologue. The voice that says, I shouldn't have done that. I should try harder. I made the wrong call. It believes it's steering the ship, but it's just watching the waves. You don't control your thoughts. They arise. You don't control your impulses. They surface. And you don't control your decisions. You just feel them arrive. Like weather. Like instinct. Like fate. Now ask this. if every thought is caused, if every feeling is caused, if every action is the result of a chain you didn't begin, then what is the you that supposedly decides? And if that you never actually pulls the lever, never lights the match, never even writes its own wants, then what is it you've been calling freedom all this time? The self is an illusion held together by attention you. Wake up each morning and return to yourself. The voice in your head continues its monologue. The memories return. The name returns. The mirror confirms your shape. You say, "This is me." You believe it. And why wouldn't you? The self feels so intimate, so unbroken, so familiar. But it's not. It never was. It's a trick, a loop, a dream you keep waking up into. Let's begin with split brain patience. When the corpus callosum, bridge between the left and right hemispheres, is severed, the two halves of the brain stop communicating. One person, two minds. Two centers of consciousness. In experiments, one hand buttons a shirt while the other unbuttons it. One eye reads a word. The other eye responds to a different command. Each hemisphere develops its own personality, its own preferences, its own self. So which one is you? Still think you're unified? Then look at dissociative identity disorder. Multiple selves in one skull, each with different memories, voices, even physiological responses. Some alters are children, some are animals, some are violent, some are kind. All claim the same body, but none share the same self. So who's the real one? What makes your continuity more valid than theirs? Still believe the self is singular? Then explore the default mode network, the part of your brain most active when doing nothing, when you're daydreaming, when you're being yourself. It's where the self-narrative lives, the inner story, the sense of I am. Shut it down with meditation or psychedelics or deep trauma, and the self dissolves. Not metaphorically. Literally. You lose the boundary. You feel interconnected. Or empty. Or terrified. You realize the self was an ongoing construction. Still think it's stable? Then ask, where is the self when you're asleep? In dreamless sleep, there's no memory. No story. No center. You vanish. And yet you return. With no explanation. Like booting up a simulation, restoring a saved file. But who pressed save? And who designed the user? Now go deeper. The self depends on memory. But memory is flawed. False. Editable. Each time you recall an event, you reconstruct it. And in doing so, you rewrite the self that lived it. Your past is not a library. It's a lab. Every memory is a hypothesis, a reconstruction. An illusion. So the self you're defending was stitched together from bad data. Still believe it's you? Then look at trauma. When something shatters you, your self breaks, sometimes permanently. Don't bounce back. You become someone else. You forget how you used to think, feel, believe. Trauma isn't a wound. It's a rewiring. The old self dies, new one appears, and no one mourns the corpse because you keep wearing the same name. Now consider this. The self is a lens focused by attention. When attention narrows, the self strengthens. When attention expands, the self fades. You are not a being. You are a pattern of attention. Where you point it, you appear. When it disperses, you dissolve. So who is directing it? And how do you know you're the directorant, not just the spotlight? Now let's talk about ego death. In meditation, in psychedelics, in breakdowns, people report losing their sense of self. Not drifting, not changing. Losing. No identity. No ownership. No I. Just sensation. Just presence. Just the raw, unshaped world. And in that state, they realize the self was never real. It was scaffolding, a survival mechanism. A boundary drawn in sand. You needed a self to navigate the world. But now the mask won't come off. You've mistaken the actor for the script. Think you're the author? Then explain why your inner monologue never shuts up, why it argues with itself, why it contradicts itself, why it sounds like your parents, your fears, your enemies. You don't own it. You inherit it. Yourself is the sum of voices you didn't choose, memories you didn't verify, and attention you can't fully control. So what's left? If your memories are fabrications, if your personality is modular, if your attention creates identity, then the self is not real. It's a performance. An echo, masked for a machine that cannot stop observing. Now ask this: if the self disappears in sleep, fractures under trauma, vanishes under meditation, and multiplies in split brains, then what exactly is you? And if it can be deleted, rewritten, overwritten, then was it ever more than a story told to no one being nothing in a language made of lies?